Cold bone-piercing chill. This was the first sensation Lin Xu'ang felt upon regaining consciousness. It was as if his entire body had been submerged in a 10,000-year ice cavern, the cold seeping through his pores and drilling into his marrow. He jerked his eyes open. What met his gaze was a boundless expanse of gray desolation and deathly stillness. The leaden sky hung low like dirty cotton while pressing heavily upon his head, making it hard to breathe. The air was thick with a heavy smell of rust dust and an indescribable sickly sweet stench of organic decay. The combination formed a nauseating odor. He propped himself up on his arms and sat up with some difficulty. Beneath him was the cold, cracked cement floor, the rough texture scraping against his skin. Looking around, there was nothing but dilapidated and ruined scenes everywhere. The once towering buildings were now only twisted steel skeletons, like the remains of giant beasts stubbornly piercing through the broken concrete walls, silently telling a tragic past. As far as the eye could see, there were only broken walls, piles of rubble, and a deep-seated desolation. His memory was chaotic. The last fragment was the screech of brakes, the blinding high beams, and the sparkling shards of the windshield shattering. Then endless darkness, and this awakening. Where is this? Ding. Detected compatible host soul fluctuation. Dragon Kingdom National Destiny Binding Program initiated. Binding. 10, 30, 50, 80, 100. Binding successful. A cold, emotionless mechanical voice resounded abruptly in his mind, clear and undeniable. Welcome to the National Destiny Survival Game, contestant Lin Xu'ang. You have been chosen to represent the Dragon Kingdom along with 199 other contestants from different countries, all thrown into this post-apocalyptic wasteland. Your performance will directly affect the Dragon Kingdom's national destiny. The resources you obtain will be manifested 100-fold in the Dragon Kingdom. The disasters you encounter will also descend 100-fold. Strive to survive for yourself and for your nation. National Destiny Survival. Post-apocalyptic wasteland. Lin Xu'ang's pupils suddenly contracted, his heart gripped by an invisible hand. He was not dreaming. The voice in his mind and the surreal desolation before his eyes both pointed to a cruel truth. He had been drawn into an incomprehensible survival game concerning the fate of his nation. Almost instinctively, he suppressed the shock in his heart and forced himself to calm down. Panic would solve nothing, especially in this unknown environment. As the mechanical voice faded, a translucent blue screen automatically unfolded before his eyes like a holographic projection from a sci-fi movie, clearly displaying several lines of information. Name: Lin Xu'ang, Dragon Kingdom, status minor abrasions, hunger, dehydration, strength 8, adult male, average 10, agility 9, constitution 7, spirit 12, talent not, awakened skills none, equipment none, survival points 0, current area post-apocalyptic wasteland, safe zone 073, remaining safe time 2 hours 57 minutes and 32 seconds. The attribute panel was simple, but the content made Lin Xu'ang frown slightly. Strength, agility, and constitution were all below the adult male average. Constitution in particular was a pitiful 7 points, meaning his endurance, recovery, and resilience were relatively weak. The only attribute above average was spirit, 12 points. Was it because of the transmigration, or something else? As for talent, skills, and equipment, all were blank. Survival points were also 0. A typical blank start, and the initial stats were terrible. His gaze swept over the remaining safe time column, and his heart chilled. Less than 3 hours. This was his only safe preparation time. He took a deep breath. The air mixed with decay irritated his throat, but also dispelled the last trace of confusion. He quickly stood up and began to observe his surroundings. This so-called safe zone seemed to be the ground floor hall of a large ruined building, relatively intact, about the size of a basketball court. Apart from him, there were dozens of people scattered around, men and women, old and young, of various skin tones and dressed differently. Some even in pajamas or hospital gowns, clearly all pulled in suddenly. At this moment, most of these people were in a state of extreme terror and confusion. Cries, screams, hysterical questions, and helpless sobs mixed together, forming a symphony of despair. Some tried to charge at the faint blue light membrane at the edge of the safe zone, but were repelled by a soft yet firm force. Some collapsed on the ground, eyes hollow, as if they had lost their souls. A few, like Lin Xu'ang, though pale, began to observe calmly, trying to find something useful. Lin Xu'ang ignored the surrounding noise. Suppressing the dryness in his throat and the slight gnawing pain in his stomach from hunger, he began to search carefully like a ghost in the corners of the ruins. He avoided the crowd, focusing on the neglected gaps under collapsed cabinets and behind piles of rubble. Time was life. He had to find initial resources to help him survive within this limited safe period. Shifting broken concrete slabs, brushing away thick layers of dust accumulated over years. His movements were swift and cautious, trying not to attract attention. A few minutes later, his efforts paid off. Behind a half-collapsed metal filing cabinet, he found half a bottle of murky mineral water, the bottle stained, and the label long peeled off, and a compressed biscuit slightly deformed, but still intact in its packaging. Food and water. In a survival game, these were the most basic and most precious resources. The moment his fingers touched the half-bottle of murky water, the mechanical voice in his mind sounded again, without warning detected, host obtaining initial resources. Hidden condition met. Unique talent awakening. Awakening. A faint but distinct warmth surged from the depths of his body like a dormant volcano suddenly awakening a flicker of flame. The warmth quickly flowed through his limbs and bones, driving away some of the piercing cold, and he even felt his strength seem to solidify a little. At the same time, the blue screen before his eyes refreshed. Talent awakening successful. Talent 100-fold damage unique effect. Any form of damage you inflict on any target, including physical, energy, spiritual, etc., will be multiplied by a factor of 100 in the final calculation. Note this effect has extremely high priority, protected by rules, and cannot be weakened, exempted, or detected by conventional means. 100-fold damage. Lin Xu'ang's heart leaped. Even with his extraordinary calm, he felt an uncontrollable throb, and his blood seemed to flow faster. This talent was absurdly powerful. What did it mean? It meant that even with his mere 8 points of strength, as long as he could break through the target's defense and cause even a tiny wound, the final result would be 100 times the original damage. 8 points of strength could theoretically unleash a terrifying killing power comparable to 800 points. This completely made up for his inferior base stats and instantly elevated him to a terrifying height. In this perilous post-apocalyptic wasteland, attack power often meant the right to survive. He unconsciously clenched his fist, and his knuckles cracked softly. Looking at the attribute panel, his base strength was still 8, agility 9, constitution 7. But with the heaven-defying talent of 100-fold damage, the meaning of these numbers had completely changed. He was now like a pistol loaded with a nuclear warhead, unassuming in appearance yet containing devastating power. "Hey, kid, you." A rude, obviously malicious voice suddenly sounded beside him, interrupting Lin Xu'ang's inner turmoil. He looked up, his eyes instantly returning to their previous coldness and calm. A rude, obviously malicious voice suddenly sounded beside him, interrupting Lin Xu'ang's inner turmoil. He looked up, his eyes instantly returning to their previous coldness and calm. He looked up, his eyes instantly returning to their previous coldness and calm. 3 men approached him in a semicircle, blocking his path to a more open area. The leader was a white man, nearly 1.9 meters tall, wearing a dirty work vest with bulging muscles on his bare arms, covered in black tattoos, a face full of flesh, and a fierce look of undisguised plunder. Behind him were a tall, skinny man with a sinister look and a short, fat man with a fawning and greedy expression. This trio in the chaotic safe zone had clearly formed a small group and began to practice their understanding of the law of the jungle. Those nearby who noticed the situation showed fear, instinctively stepping back to clear a space, no one daring to speak out or even show sympathy. When it was hard to save oneself, indifference was the only protective color. The burly man walked up to Lin Xu'ang, looking down at him like prey, his gaze sweeping over the half-bottle of water and compressed biscuit in his hand. He grinned, revealing yellowed teeth, and said in heavily accented English, "Lucky huh, yellow monkey. Hand over the stuff and get lost. This corner is ours now." Through the system's real-time translation, Lin Xu'ang understood the other party's meaning without any barrier. Extortion. Robbery. In a collapsed order, this was the fastest way to accumulate resources, simple, direct, and ugly. Lin Xu'ang did not speak. His expression did not even change. He just looked at him calmly, his eyes deep and unfathomable like 2 ancient wells without a ripple. That look contained no fear, no anger, not even contempt. It was a pure, almost indifferent observation, as if looking at a stone or a pile of garbage to be swept away. The burly man found this look strangely unsettling. Being completely ignored like this infuriated him more than expected begging or resistance. He felt his authority was challenged, especially under the gaze of many lambs. "Fuck. Deaf. Looking for death." The burly man, furious and humiliated, roared and swung his large calloused hand directly at Lin Xu'ang's face. This slap was heavy and powerful. If it landed with Lin Xu'ang's frail constitution of only 7, he would likely be stunned or even knocked unconscious, becoming a lamb to the slaughter. Just as the rough, calloused palm was about to touch his cheek, and he could even feel the force of the wind, Lin Xu'ang moved. Still as a virgin, moving like a startled hare. He did not choose to retreat and dodge because the narrow corner limited his movement space. Instead, he stepped forward half a step, his body slightly sideways like a drawn bowstring, and his right hand shot out like a coiled viper, striking in the short distance. His 5 fingers closed together, using his hand as a blade, channeling all his strength along with the newly awakened, yet untested, terrifying talent into his fingertips, targeting the inner side of the burly man's swinging elbow, a nerve-dense, relatively vulnerable point. His movement was fast, precise, ruthless, not at all like an ordinary person with below-average stats, but more like an experienced killer, every action devoid of redundancy, pursuing the most efficient killing. This did not come from any system skill, but from some instinctive combat awareness deep in his soul. A soft, almost inaudible thud, like a ripe fruit falling. The burly man's forward charge suddenly froze. The expression of rage and cruelty on his face instantly solidified, replaced by extreme shock and bewilderment. He did not feel the expected sensation of bone breaking from his palm. Instead, he felt as if his elbow had been stabbed and twisted by a red-hot high-speed steel drill. It was not simple pain, but a destructive blow that instantly exceeded the limit of endurance originating from the nerve endings. Ah! A piercing, inhuman scream burst from the burly man's throat, sharply tearing through the original noise of the safe zone. In the shocked and horrified eyes of everyone, the burly man's arm, thicker than Lin Xu'ang's thigh, began to bend inward from the elbow in a bizarre, physically impossible manner. Collapsed, twisted, shattered. The skin and muscles were crushed as if by an invisible high-pressure hydraulic press, instantly turning into a formless mass of flesh and blood, with white bone fragments piercing through the skin like an explosion ferociously exposed to the air. The entire forearm completely lost its skeletal support, drooping limply, only connected by some torn skin and tendons. Hundredfold damage, terrifying as such. A seemingly light, precise strike, yet its visual effect was comparable to being directly hit and crushed by heavy industrial machinery. Kill potential threat unit, gain survival points 5. The system prompt coldly rang in Lin Xu'ang's mind, confirming the death of the burly man. The intense pain and rapid loss of life force had already caused the burly man to fall to the ground, his body curled up like a shrimp, only twitching unconsciously, with a rattling sound from his throat, and his pupils rapidly dilating. Silence. Deadly silence. The safe point that had been filled with all kinds of sounds just moments ago now seemed to have been muted. All the crying, questioning, and roaring disappeared. Everyone seemed to be frozen in place, eyes wide, mouths agape, staring in disbelief at the young Eastern man who still stood there, his expression unchanged from beginning to end, and at the corpse of the burly man at his feet that was rapidly approaching death in a grotesque manner. The smug smiles and flattery on the faces of the tall, thin man and the short, fat man completely froze like two clumsy sculptures. Their eyes were filled with boundless fear, looking at Lin Xu'ang as if they were looking at a demon crawling out of the deepest abyss, a bone-chilling coldness rising from the soles of their feet to the top of their heads, making their legs tremble uncontrollably, instinctively stepping back, almost tripping over the rubble on the ground. Lin Xu'ang did not even look at the still twitching corpse on the ground, as if he had just casually swatted an annoying fly. His gaze calmly turned to the remaining two, who were almost scared out of their wits, his voice not loud, but clearly heard by everyone, carrying an undeniable coldness. Any more questions? The tall, thin man and the short, fat man shivered, as if electrocuted, shaking their heads like rattles, forcing a face uglier than crying, their lips trembling, but unable to utter a sound. They scrambled and crawled, retreating to the edge of the crowd, wishing they could curl up into a ball and completely disappear from Lin Xu'ang's sight. Lin Xu'ang ignored them. He bent down expressionlessly and began to quickly search the burly man's corpse. A piece of black rock, hard dried meat of unknown material, and a short dagger with rust, but still sharp edge. Good harvest weapons and extra food. He picked up his water and biscuits along with the newly acquired loot and walked to a corner far from the crowd, near a relatively solid wall, and sat down silently. He sat with his back against the cold wall, ensuring safety behind him and covering most of the safe point with his field of vision. Then he began to slowly and carefully chew the hard compressed biscuit, taking small sips of the murky, earthy-tasting mineral water. His movements were unhurried, as if the earth-shattering blow just now had nothing to do with him, as if the fearful, awestruck, and complicated gazes around him did not exist. Throughout the process, he showed no trace of victor's pride, nor any vomiting, trembling, or excitement that might come after killing for the first time. He was eerily calm, chilling to the bone. The looks of the people around him completely changed. From initial disregard, sympathy, and curiosity, they turned into utter awe, fear, and deep dread. A 10-meter radius around him formed an invisible vacuum no one dared to approach. A saint? What is that? Lin Xu'ang let out a silent sneer in his heart. In this kind of stark dog-eat-dog hellhole, showing mercy to enemies is the ultimate irresponsibility towards one's own life. He didn't want to be a hero, nor was he interested in saving anyone. He just wanted to rely on his own strength and judgment to survive, to live well with everything that belonged to him. Any obstacle standing in the way of his survival, be it human or monster, would be crushed. Time passed in oppressive silence, minute by minute. The atmosphere in the safe point became even more eerie, except for the occasional suppressed sobbing. Almost no other sound could be heard. Only 10 minutes remained before the safe time indicated by the system ended. Many people began to anxiously look towards the dimming blue light membrane outside the safe point. Beyond the membrane lay deeper, more ruined shadows, and one could faintly hear some spine-chilling low roars and rustling sounds, as if countless eyes were peeping in the darkness. Lin Xu'ang adjusted his breathing, bringing his body to optimal condition. He gripped the short dagger tightly in his hand, the cold touch making his mind highly focused. Suddenly, warning. Abnormal energy fluctuation detected, invading the rules of this world. Game difficulty is about to undergo unpredictable changes. Correcting. Warning. Correction failed. Difficulty forcibly increased to hell level. The barrier of no. 073 initial save point will disappear 10 seconds earlier. All players prepare yourselves. 9. 8. A series of urgent piercing alarm sounds like death knells exploded in everyone's minds. The originally blue system interface was instantly covered by glaring red warning text. What a hell level. Are you kidding me? The barrier is disappearing. It's not time yet. The system is bugged. No, I don't want to die. Panic like ignited gunpowder instantly exploded and swept through the entire save point like wildfire. The barely maintained silence was completely shattered, and crying, screaming, pushing, and desperate roars erupted again, even more violently than before. The crowd completely lost control, running around like headless flies, and some even attacked those around them out of extreme fear, just to fight for a supposedly safer spot. Lin Xu'ang stood up abruptly, his eyes sharp as an eagle's, gripping the dagger tighter, his knuckles whitening from the force. The sudden change made his heart sink, but he forcibly suppressed the surging emotions. Complaints and fear were meaningless, only facing it mattered. He took a deep breath, his gaze like a cold searchlight fixed on the pale blue light membrane outside the safe point, which was violently fluctuating, its light flickering rapidly, as if it could shatter at any moment. 7, 6, 7, 6. The roars and rustling sounds outside the membrane suddenly became clear, dense, and aggressive. As if countless sleeping beasts were suddenly awakened, frantically converging from all directions towards this last safe zone. 5, 4, 5, 4. Vaguely distorted shadows began to emerge in the ruins, darkness, blood-red eyes lighting up in the darkness. The sky also heard the dense grating sound of flapping wings, and some strange flying creatures with tattered wings began to circle overhead, casting ominous shadows. 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. Safety barrier gone. Whoosh. That pale blue light membrane which held the last hope let out a strained whine, flickered a few times like a burst soap bubble, and completely dissipated, vanishing without a trace. The air of the wasteland, heavy with rot and blood, rushed in instantly. Almost at the same time, like a burst dam, various forms of shadows exuding thick malice and death crazily rushed out from the ruined shadows between broken buildings and behind every cover. Some looked like large skinless dogs with exposed muscle fibers, mouths full of dagger-like fangs dripping corrosive foul mucus. Others were like humanoid creatures twisted by radiation, with unhealthy gray-green skin, arms mutated into gleaming bone blades, hollow eye sockets burning with ghostly green soul flames, and still others were mixtures of giant insects and reptiles covered in hard carapaces, dragging tails with barbs. Off. Help. The screams resounded to the sky the moment the barrier disappeared. A middle-aged woman in pajamas who was closest to the edge had no time to react before being pounced on by a fast, skinless dog monster. Its sharp claws easily tore open her fragile throat, and warm blood spurted like a fountain, splashing on the nearby ground and the terrified faces of the crowd. The feast of slaughter had begun. Lin Xu'ang's eyes narrowed, and without any hesitation his body leaped out like a crouching leopard. His target was not the area with fewer monsters behind, but to the left, where a bone-blade humanoid monster had just burst through the chaotic crowd, opening its mucus-covered maw ready to pounce on a little girl frozen in extreme fear, her face streaked with tears. He was not suddenly showing mercy to save someone, but from his observation in the seconds before the barrier disappeared, he judged that the direction of the boneblade monster, due to its impact angle, had temporarily created a small gap behind, which was a relatively narrow, but possibly deeper passage into the complex building where there might be a turnaround or cover. This monster was precisely blocking the only path to survival. The boneblade monster also noticed this food that was actively charging at it. It let out a hoarse, sandpaper-like roar, and its arm mutated into a bone blade swung horizontally, with a piercing sound, leaving only a gray-white afterimage aiming directly at Lin Xu'ang's waist, intending to cut him in half. Lin Xu'ang's pupils contracted slightly. At the moment the bone blade was about to hit, he pushed off the ground with force, his body twisting at an almost physically impossible angle, ducking and sliding sideways, narrowly avoiding the deadly edge. The sharp blade wind scraped his cheeks painfully. At the same time, during the slide, the rusty short dagger in his hand concentrated with all his strength and spirit, as well as the incredible hundredfold damage, talent accurately and ruthlessly stabbed at the knee joint of the monster's supporting leg. Clang! A dull metallic clash, sound not very loud, rang out. The tip of the dagger transmitted a huge, unimaginable rebound force, shaking Lin Xu'ang's entire right arm, causing his tiger's mouth to instantly crack and bleed. The defense of this boneblade monster was obviously far beyond that of the burly man, though its bone hardness was comparable to alloy. But hundredfold damage, a rule-level talent, ignores defense. Crack! A crisp, hair-raising sound like an iceberg breaking erupted. The seemingly indestructible bone joint on the monster's knee, as if hit by a high-explosive armor-piercing shell, suddenly exploded. Bone fragments shot out like shrapnel, and thick, dark green, foul-smelling blood gushed out like a high-pressure water gun. Roar! The monster let out a sky-shaking roar mixed with extreme pain, rage, and disbelief. Its massive body completely lost balance, slamming to its knees like a felled tree shaking the ground, and its crippled leg twisted at a grotesque angle. Lin Xu'ang did not even look at the miserable result, nor did he confirm whether the monster was dead. His steps did not pause at all. Taking advantage of the brief chaos and gap caused by the monster falling, he moved like the wind at top speed, darting past the fallen monster and diving headfirst into the deep, dark, unknown passage among the ruins. Behind him came the deafening roars of monsters, the desperate wails of dying humans, the terrifying sounds of flesh being torn and bones being crushed, all intertwined, composing a bloody and cruel prelude to hell. His escape, or rather his survival, had officially begun. And at the moment his figure disappeared into the darkness of the passage, in the far, far distance of the leaden sky, a subtle horizon-spanning black crack, as if tearing the sky apart, quietly appeared. It hung there silently, like the slowly opening eye of an indifferent supreme deity, silently watching the apocalyptic wasteland below that had suddenly plunged into madness, slaughter, and despair. The frigid air mingled with thick blood, and decay flooded Lin Xu'ang's lungs. Suppressing his discomfort, he pushed his speed to the limit, sprinting through the dim, debris-laden ruins of a corridor. The screams and monstrous roars from the direction of the safe zone behind him did not fade, instead they spread like a tide, reminding him that to linger was to die. This passage was no smooth path. The walls on either side were crumbling, dust and gravel occasionally falling from above, while the ground was littered with treacherous rubble and unidentified refuse. The light was extremely dim, only a gray, lifeless glow filtering through cracks and gaps barely outlining the surroundings. His mind was razor-sharp. His 12 points of mental power now came into play, granting him heightened perception, allowing him to detect obvious dangers in advance and barely see in the faint light. Whoosh! A dark figure lunged down from a hole in the upper wall, bringing a gust of foul air. Lin Xu'ang didn't even see what it was clearly. His long-term exposure to danger, perhaps an instinct from his past life, made his body react before his mind. He rolled forward abruptly, a bit clumsily, but effectively dodging the attack. Thud! The creature crashed into the rubble behind where he had been, emitting a dull sound. Lin Xu'ang rose quickly, gripping his dagger as he looked back. It was a creature about the size of a domestic cat, but entirely black, with sharp mouthparts and a tail like a scorpion stinger. Its compound eyes glowed red in the gloom. After missing its strike, it immediately hissed a threat and arched its back again. No time for a prolonged fight. The noise might attract more monsters. Lin Xu'ang's eyes turned cold. Instead of retreating, he charged toward the scorpion cat. The scorpion cat pushed off its hind legs, shooting forward like a black lightning bolt, aiming straight for his throat. Just as they were about to collide, Lin Xu'ang sidestepped abruptly, his dagger slicing upward in a tricky arc. Not to kill, but to precisely block the scorpion cat's extended forepaw. Clink! A soft sound. The force from the dagger was not strong. But at the same moment, Lin Xu'ang's left-hand fingers pressed together like an iron chisel imbued with the terrifying power of hundredfold damage, struck viciously at the scorpion cat's relatively vulnerable abdomen. Crunch! There was no loud noise. The scorpion cat's seemingly tough hide was like paper before the hundredfold damage. Its entire abdomen instantly folded inward under an invisible colossal force. Its internal organs and dark green fluid squirted from its mouth and anus simultaneously. It didn't even manage a death cry as if struck by a speeding truck. Its body twisted into a grotesque U-shape, slamming into the wall and falling with a wet thud, utterly lifeless. Successfully killed a low-level radiation scorpion cat. Survival points 2. The system notification chimed. Lin Xu'ang didn't even glance at the corpse. He crouched low, alertly sensing his surroundings. After confirming that the brief skirmish hadn't attracted more attention, he quickly moved to the scorpion cat's body and searched it with his dagger. Unfortunately, aside from staining his hands with foul stench, there was nothing. Seems not all monsters drop loot, he thought. He lingered no longer and continued stealthily deeper into the corridor. This passage seemed to have once been a ventilation or maintenance tunnel of some underground facility, branching in all directions. Guided by instinct and a natural aversion to danger, he chose paths that were quieter and had thicker dust accumulation, likely indicating less biological activity. After about 10 minutes of travel, the noise behind him gradually faded. He found a relatively hidden corner, a half-collapsed storage room with a small entrance just enough to hide in, and a rusted metal door that could barely block the entrance. He carefully moved a few rocks to further conceal the entrance, then leaned against the cold wall, slowly sat down, and let out a long, blood-tinged breath. Temporarily safe. He first checked his condition. The split wound on his tiger's mouth had stopped bleeding, but still throbbed with pain. The hunger and dehydration status icons were still there, their colors slightly darker, urging him to replenish soon. He took out the half bottle of murky water and the compressed biscuit, taking small sips and bites. Then he looked at the black dried meat strip he had taken from the big man. He cut off a small piece, hesitated, then put it in his mouth. An indescribable mix of rancid gamey taste and spoiled oil filled his mouth. The meat was as hard as would requiring vigorous chewing to swallow. But after swallowing, a slight warmth spread in his stomach, easing some of the hunger. Better than nothing, he said expressionlessly, stowing the remaining meat. He opened the system panel. Survival points had increased from 0 to 75 from the big man, 2 from the scorpion cat. The panel now had a shop option, but it was grayed out, indicating it required a safe house. Additionally, there was a regional channel 073 option. With a thought, he opened the regional channel. A chat-like interface unfolded before him, with messages scrolling rapidly. Help! I'm in a place full of junk cars with lots of zombie-like things. Someone save me. Coordinates 073, 189, 277 inch. FK. What the hell is this place? My leg is bitten. It's rotting. God, please protect me. Anyone want to form a team? I can't hold on alone. Prioritize those with good physique and weapons. Any friends from the Dragon Kingdom? Sound off. Haha, I found a crate of canned food. Jackpot. Idiot above you just exposed your coordinates. Waiting to die. Who was that killer at the safe zone? So fierce. I want to cling to a big shot. Lin Xu'ang from the Dragon Kingdom. I saw the system kill notification. Big bro, take me with you. Just lucky got a cheap shot. The information was chaotic, filled with despair, pleas for help, occasional boasting, and petty scheming. Lin Xu'ang noticed several mentions of his name. It seemed his actions at the safe zone and the system kill notifications had made him memorable to many. He quickly scanned the messages, filtering out useless information, trying to extract valuable intelligence. For example, types of monsters besides what he had encountered, some mention radiation bugs that self-destructed, vines that sprayed acid, etc. Terrain features, possible resource points, and the movements of other contestants. He saw a few messages trying to organize teams, but responses were sparse. In this environment, trust was a luxury. He closed the regional channel and fell into deep thought. Hell difficulty. Based on his encounter in the corridor, the density and aggression of the monsters were indeed extremely high. Moreover, the system's mention of abnormal energy fluctuations and forced difficulty increase gave him a sense of unease. He must improve his strength quickly. Survival points were useless for now. The immediate priority was to find a stable source of water and food and a more secure base. After resting for about half an hour, feeling his strength recover somewhat, Lin Xu'ang decided to continue exploring. This temporary hideout was not a place to stay. He carefully moved the rocks blocking the entrance, then melted into the shadows of the corridor like a ghost. This time, he was even more cautious, moving slower, fully utilizing the ruins as cover and heightening his hearing and sight to the maximum. Along the way, he encountered several more scattered radiation scorpion cats and a type of slow-moving creature with tough rotting flesh called shamblers. With the terrifying effect of hundredfold damage, he dispatched them quickly, trying to avoid making too much noise. His survival points slowly increased to 15. At the same time, he paid more attention to searching. In some collapsed office cubicles and abandoned vehicle wrecks, he found another half bottle of unopened label faded purified water and a few intact high-energy chocolate bars. The gains were modest, but they alleviated the immediate crisis. As he passed through a relatively open area that had once been a plaza, muffled sobbing and fierce fighting sounds came from a half-collapsed shopping mall slightly ahead to the side. Lin Xu'ang instinctively wanted to avoid it. The less trouble, the better. However, when his eyes swept over a few empty cans and wrappers scattered at the mall entrance, he paused slightly. Resources. Moreover, the sounds of fighting included human curses and a sharp, unfamiliar monster screech he hadn't heard before. His eyes flickered as he weighed the risks and benefits. The risks lay in unknown monsters and possible other contestants. The benefits could be resources as well as a chance to learn more about other monsters and contestants. Whoosh, thud. A figure burst through the broken window of the mall, crashing heavily onto the rubble-strewn plaza and spitting blood. It was a young Asian man in a camouflage uniform with a crew cut, looking quite tough. But now 3 deep claw marks across his chest were bleeding profusely. He clutched a bloodstained military dagger, his eyes filled with pain, yet still fierce. Then 2 bizarre monsters leaped out of the broken window. They were about the size of a wolfhound, resembling lizards, but covered in dull metallic scales. Their tails were like steel whips, and their heads were the strangest part, like enlarged locust heads with compound eyes gleaming coldly and mouthparts lined with serrated teeth. One of the lizard monsters even had a shred of camouflage fabric hanging from its serrated mouth. Iron Jaw Lizards. Lin Xu'ang immediately recalled the name mentioned in the regional channel. These monsters were known for their defense and biting power, making them formidable. The camouflage-clad youth was clearly at his last gasp, struggling to get up, but moving slowly. The 2 Iron Jaw Lizards closed in from left and right, emitting low, menacing sounds like predators toying with their prey. Lin Xu'ang's gaze passed over the youth and into the mall. Through the broken window, he could see what looked like a makeshift camp with some supply crates piled in a corner. Resources. And quite a lot, it seemed. He looked back at the 2 Iron Jaw Lizards. Could hundredfold damage penetrate their iron-like armor? Just as one Iron Jaw Lizard grew impatient and lunged at the camouflage-clad youth, Lin Xu'ang moved. He shot out from behind cover like a phantom, his speed exploding to the maximum. His target was not the one that had pounced, but the other one that had stayed behind watching its companion hunt. This iron-jaw lizard reacted quickly, sensing danger. It immediately swung its steel whip, tail whistling, toward Lin Xu'ang. Lin Xu'ang did not dodge. As the tail was about to hit, he suddenly dropped low, almost sliding along the ground while his dagger sliced upward with precision, aiming for the relatively soft belly of the iron-jaw lizard, where the scales were thinner. SSSSS. The dagger scraped across the scales, producing a shower of sparks, but it couldn't fully penetrate. It only left a shallow, bloody scratch. The iron-jaw lizard, stung by the pain, let out an angry hiss and lowered its head to bite at Lin Xu'ang's head with its terrifying jaws. But at the same moment the dagger scratched its belly, Lin Xu'ang's other hand had clenched into a fist, channeling all his strength along with the rule-based power of hundredfold damage, and slammed it, without any flourish, into the joint of the lizard's front leg that supported its body. Crack! A sound even more muffled and bone-crunching than the Boneblade monster's knee joint breaking earlier. The iron-jaw lizard's thick, heavily scaled front leg starting from the joint burst apart, as if crushed by a massive hydraulic clamp. The scales shattered instantly, and the internal bones and muscle tissue were ground into paste by an incomprehensible force. The entire leg twisted backward at an exaggerated angle, and from the break, not just blood, but a slurry of bone fragments and minced flesh spurted out. Scree! The iron-jaw lizard let out an unprecedented, agonized scream. Its massive body crashed to the ground, writhing in pain, sweeping away the rubble on the ground. The other iron-jaw lizard, which had just pounced on the camouflage-clad youth and was about to bite down, was stunned by the sudden turn of events, and its companion's plight, pausing for a moment. The camouflage-clad youth seized this critical opportunity, using his last strength to drive his dagger deep into the eye socket of the iron-jaw lizard on top of him. Squelch! Green fluid splattered. The iron-jaw lizard in pain shook its head violently, flinging him off again. Lin Xu'ang did not pause. After dealing with one, he immediately lunged at the other. Seeing its companion's fate and Lin Xu'ang charging the other iron-jaw lizard's ferocity, was overwhelmed by fear. It let out a timid whimper and turned to flee. But Lin Xu'ang would not let it escape. He was faster, catching up in a few steps. Using the same technique, he avoided its bite and tail whip, then struck its hind leg joint with hundredfold damage. Crack! Another leg was crippled. The iron-jaw lizard howled and collapsed. Lin Xu'ang stepped forward expressionlessly, finishing it off with his dagger. Successfully killed an iron-jaw lizard. Survival points 8. Successfully killed an iron-jaw lizard. Survival points 8. His survival points became 31. He finally let out a breath, feeling a wave of fatigue. Continuously using hundredfold damage, though devastating, seemed to place a significant burden on his mental and physical strength. He walked over to the camouflage-clad youth. The youth was now leaning against a concrete block, pale with severe chest injuries, breathing heavily, but his eyes still sharp as he looked at Lin Xu'ang. Thanks, the youth said hoarsely with pain, but bluntly. Lei Lai from the northeast of the Dragon Kingdom. Lin Xu'ang. Lin Xu'ang replied, briefly glancing at his wounds. Can you treat them? Lei Lai grinned, but the movement made him wince. I'll survive. There's a first aid kit in my bag. Hand it to me. Lin Xu'ang found a military first aid kit from the tactical backpack behind him and handed it to Lei Lai. Lei Lai skillfully cleaned his wounds, stopped the bleeding, and bandaged them. During this, Lin Xu'ang kept watch alertly. What's the situation inside? Lin Xu'ang asked, looking into the mall. A small survivor camp. There were 5 or 6 people before, but those 2 beasts scattered them. Some died, some ran. Lei Lai said as he bandaged. There's still some supplies. We'll split them evenly. Lin Xu'ang nodded, having no objection to that proposal. While he had acted partly for resources, Lei Lai's honesty and straightforwardness didn't displease him. You're strong. Lei Lai, having finished bandaging, panted and looked at Lin Xu'ang with a mix of curiosity and respect. That power. It's not a normal talent, is it? Lin Xu'ang gave a non-committal answer. Let's deal with the inside first. It's not safe to stay here long. The two helped each other into the half-collapsed mall. Inside was a mess with signs of a struggle and dried bloodstains. In a corner barricaded by cabinets, they found several plastic crates containing canned food, bottled water, batteries, lighters, and other survival supplies, along with 2 machetes and some bandages and medicine. A good haul. Just as they were sorting through the supplies, Lin Xu'ang's system interface flashed red again. Emergency regional announcement: the first safe house coordinates in Area 073 have been refreshed. Location 073, 332, 118. The safe house provides basic protection, storage, and shop access. Occupying the safe house grants continuous survival points and regional broadcast privileges. Warning: safe house coordinates have been made public to all contestants in Area 073 and some high-threat monsters. The struggle is about to begin. Lin Xu'ang and Lei Lai exchanged a glance, both seeing the gravity in each other's eyes. A safe house. Opportunity, but also immense risk. Inside the temporary stronghold of the mall, the air seemed to solidify. The red glow of the system announcement flickered across the faces of Lin Xu'ang and Lei Lai, casting shifting shadows. The coordinates of the safe house were like a boulder thrown into a serene lake, instantly shattering the brief tranquility the two had just gained from securing supplies. Safe house. Lei Lai licked his cracked lips, his eyes shimmering with both desire and wariness. A good thing, basic protection, storage, and even access to a shop. But the coordinates being public. That's a meat grinder. Lin Xu'ang quickly opened the system map. Most of the map was shrouded in the fog of war, with only the areas they had explored and a distinct green dot now flashing clearly visible. Next to the green dot were the coordinates, 073, 332, 118. Not far, about 3 kilometers. Lin Xu'ang assessed calmly, on the edge of an industrial zone. Are we going? Lei Lai looked at Lin Xu'ang. Despite his injuries, the ferocity in his bones hadn't faded. He knew that alone his current state was too risky, and this young man, named Lin Xu'ang, possessed unfathomable strength, making him an extremely reliable temporary partner. Lin Xu'ang didn't answer immediately. His mind raced, weighing pros and cons. Going meant diving into the most brutal competition, facing other scheming contestants and powerful monsters drawn by the coordinates. The risk was extreme, likely losing his life before even glimpsing the safe house. Not going meant forfeiting a huge early advantage. The safe house's protection and storage were crucial, especially the shop, where survival points could be exchanged for key items to strengthen oneself. One step slow, every step slow. Under hellish difficulty, without the shelter of a safe house, long-term survival odds would plummet. Moreover, the system prompt said, occupying the safe house grants continuous survival point rewards and regional broadcast rights. The latter could be used to gather more intel, even influence the situation to some extent. We go, Lin Xu'ang finally decided, his voice calm, but with unshakable resolve. But not as cannon fodder. He looked at Lei Lai. How long do you need to recover? Lei Lai assessed his condition, gritting his teeth. Half an hour. I'll use the stimulant from the first aid kit. I'll be back to 70% combat strength in 30 minutes. Good. We leave in half an hour. Lin Xu'ang nodded. We don't need to be the first to arrive. Let them wear each other down. Our goal is to claim it in the end. The confidence and calm in his words made Lei Lai's heart tighten, then he nodded heavily. I'm with you. Without another word, the two quickly divided the supplies they had just found. Lin Xu'ang took most of the food and water along with a machete as a secondary weapon. Lei Lai mainly carried medicine batteries and some tools. His military knife remained his primary weapon. He injected the microstimulant, leaned against the wall, and closed his eyes to rest, striving to regain strength. Lin Xu'ang stood guard, carefully checking his gear, sharpening both his knife and machete. Meanwhile, the regional channel erupted again. Safe house. Green coordinates. Brothers charge. Idiot, can't you see it's public? Whoever goes dies. Fortune favors the bold. Anyone want to team up and grab it? Winner gets a base. I see monsters already gathering near the coordinates. It's terrifying. Is Lin Xu'ang the big shot from Dragon Kingdom here? Looking for a team? Maybe he's already dead somewhere. The messages were a mix of fervor, fear, probing, and provocation. Lin Xu'ang watched coldly, saying nothing. What he needed now was not fame, but tangible gains. Half an hour passed quickly. Lei Lai opened his eyes. Though his face was still pale, his gaze had regained its sharpness and ferocity. He moved his body. The wound seemed temporarily suppressed. I'm good. Let's go. Lin Xu'ang stood, shouldered his pack, gripped his knife, and stepped out of the mall ruins. Outside, the sky remained gray as if caught in an eternal twilight. Following the map, the two chose a relatively concealed route through the interiors of broken buildings, creeping toward the safe house coordinates. The closer they got, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The roars of monsters grew noticeably louder, and in the distance came explosions, gunfire from some contestant who had found firearms, and human screams. Along the way, they saw many battle scars and fresh corpses, both monsters and humans. Clearly, the struggle had already spread from the safe house's periphery. Seems a lot of people have already arrived, Lei Lai whispered, his expression grave. Lin Xu'ang motioned, and they ducked into the second floor of an abandoned factory, observing ahead through broken windows. About 500 meters away was a relatively open abandoned industrial zone. In the center stood a sturdy, cuboid building made of gray-white alloy, its style jarringly out of place amid the ruins, likely the safe house. A faint energy film seemed to envelop the safe house's surface. At that moment, the area around the safe house had already become a chaotic battlefield. Dozens of monsters of various shapes were besieging the safe house, including iron-jaw lizards, boneblade humanoids, and even several massive mobile fortress-like corrosion behemoths. They kept ramming and spitting acid at the energy film, which rippled violently, but held for now. Among the monsters and behind cover near the safe house, about 20 to 30 human contestants were scattered. They fought individually or in small groups, fending off monsters, while keeping wary of each other, occasionally taking cheap shots at those nearby. Bullets, arrows, and all kinds of bizarre talents, fireballs, ice spikes, earth spears, etc., flew across the battlefield, plunging the scene into utter chaos. The safe house's door was tightly shut, seemingly not yet opened by anyone. A meat grinder indeed, Lei Lai gasped. Too many monsters, and those contestants. A disorganized mess. Lin Xu'ang's sharp eyes swept the battlefield, his mind analyzing rapidly. The monsters were the primary threat, but they also kept the other contestants in check. Though the contestants fought individually, a few clearly stood out, either with formidable strength special talents or well-equipped small groups. They posed a greater danger. For instance, a burly white man wielding a fire axe built like a bear with immense strength. He could cleave a radiation scorpion cat with one swing. A woman in a black leather jacket moved like the wind, her hands releasing wind blades with astonishing cutting power. And a gaunt old man in a monk's robe holding prayer beads moved with eerie agility, easily dodging monster attacks, while his beads shot golden light that proved highly effective against the creatures. "We can't charge straight in," Lin Xu'ang said quietly. Wait for what? Wait for the film to break, for them to wear each other down for an opportunity." Lin Xu'ang's eyes were like those of the most patient hunter. The safe house door won't open so easily. Time ticked by. The carnage on the battlefield grew increasingly brutal. Contestants were torn apart by monsters or ambushed by others, and the number of monsters slowly dwindled. Under the relentless assault, the safe house's energy film grew dimmer and more unstable. Finally, with a thunderous crash, a corrosion behemoth slammed into the film with its last strength. The film let out a mournful sound and shattered like glass, dissipating completely. The moment the film vanished, every survivor and monster fixed their gaze on the tightly sealed alloy door. "Charge! The safe house is mine. Stop them!" The final melee erupted. The remaining contestants and monsters surged toward the door like a tide. The fire axe-wielding brute roared, charging ahead like a tank, knocking aside monsters and men alike. The windblade woman and the monk-robed old man also closed in swiftly with their own techniques. Just as the foremost few were about to touch the door, a sudden change occurred. The alloy door of the safe house blazed with harsh red light. "Warning! Safe house defensive mechanism activated. High-threat units detected approaching. Purge protocol initiated." Wham! Several crimson laser beams shot without warning from emitters on the safe house roof, like scythes of death, instantly sweeping across the foremost figures. Thud, thud, thud. The mighty fire axe brute, the windblade woman, and two other contestants closest to the door didn't even have time to react. Their bodies were sliced and vaporized by the searing lasers. Only brief screams and the acrid stench of burnt flesh lingered in the air. This sudden turn made everyone rushing toward the door, both human and monster, halt in terror. A defensive mechanism. The system had indeed set a trap. The safe house wasn't so easy to claim. The laser beams swept a circle around the safe house, incinerating a few monsters that were too close, then slowly extinguished. The roof emitters rotated, emitting a low hum as they recharged, clearly preparing for another attack. A brief dead silence fell over the battlefield. Everyone was stunned by the terrifying defense. Now, a glint of sharp light flashed in Lin Xu'ang's eyes. The gap after the laser sweep, while everyone was still in shock and the defense system was recharging, was the opportunity he had waited for. "Follow me." Dodge the laser emitters. Orientation. Lin Xu'ang barked in a low voice, his body shooting from the window like an arrow released from a bowstring. He rolled on landing to absorb the impact, then sprinted at top speed along a dead angle, temporarily out of the laser's reach, heading straight for the safe house. Lei Lai followed closely. Despite his injury, his explosive power was still formidable. Their sudden appearance and decisive charge immediately drew the attention of the remaining contestants and monsters. "You're asking for death. Stop them." Several nearby monsters and two quick-reacting contestants lunged at them. "Get out of the way." Lei Lai roared, his military knife flashing cold light, forcing back a lunging boneblade monster. But an ice spike shot by another contestant made him falter. Lin Xu'ang's eyes were ice-cold, his speed undiminished. Facing an iron-jaw lizard directly ahead, and a Southeast Asian contestant wielding a spear who tried to ambush him, he made an incredibly bold move. He didn't dodge or veer. He charged straight into the iron-jaw lizard. In the instant before collision, his body twisted unnaturally, evading its bite. His left-hand fingers together channeled the power of 100-fold damage and drove viciously into the lizard's ear hole, a relatively weak point on its head. Uff! The 100-fold damage erupted. The inside of the iron-jaw lizard's skull seemed to explode like a bomb. Its cranium deformed instantly, blood oozing from all 7 orifices, and it collapsed without a sound. At the same moment, the Southeast Asian contestant's spear pierced toward Lin Xu'ang's ribs. As if anticipating this, Lin Xu'ang, while killing the lizard, rotated his body with the momentum of his charge, letting the spear graze past his ribs, drawing a line of blood. Only a superficial wound. Meanwhile, his knife, like a serpent's tongue, slashed across the contestant's throat. Guh! The Southeast Asian contestant clutched his spurting throat and fell in disbelief. In an instant, he had killed both a man and a monster. Such ruthless and decisive tactics sent a chill down the spines of others who might have tried to stop him, making them hesitate for a moment. That split second of hesitation was all Lin Xu'ang and Lei Lai needed to reach the safe house door. The roof laser emitters glowed again, beginning to rotate. "Quick!" Lin Xu'ang growled, pressing his hand against the cold alloy door. Detected Dragon Kingdom contestant Lin Xu'ang contacting the Safe House core. Bind. Upon binding you will become the sole owner and unlock basic functions. Bind. Binding. 1. 50. The laser emitters had locked onto them. Harsh red light began to condense. Damn it. Lei Lai roared, shoving Lin Xu'ang toward the door, while turning around, raising his machete, trying to shield with his body against the incoming lasers. At that critical moment, binding successful. Welcome Safe House owner Lin Xu'ang. Whoosh. The alloy door slid open silently. At the same time the red light on the roof emitters instantly died, falling silent. A gentle energy barrier expanded from the safe house, pushing back the remaining few monsters and several hesitant contestants by over 10 meters. The safe house had changed hands. Soft white light replaced the dreary gray outside, and the alloy door closed silently behind, temporarily isolating all the clamor, bloodshed, and danger. The interior of the safe house was far more minimalist than imagined. Occupying about 50 square meters, the walls and ceiling were made of a pristine white composite material emitting a soft glow. In the corner stood a simple metal bed, a storage unit resembling a locker, and a control panel embedded in the wall. The most striking feature was a cylindrical platform in the center of the room, projecting a blue holographic interface. Welcome to Safe House 073 owner Lin Xu'ang Dragon Kingdom Safe House. Level 1 Shield Energy 100 slowly auto-recharges accelerated consumption. When under attack functions basic protection material storage. 10 units basic life support system shop terminal current effect owner and authorized units within the safe house experience a slight increase in stamina and injury recovery speed. Occupancy reward gain 100 survival points per day requires safe house ownership. The concise information was displayed on the holographic interface. We made it. Lei Lai slid down against the wall, sitting on the floor, gasping for air, his face bearing the relief of a narrow escape and a hint of excitement. Just moments ago, when he turned to face the laser, he truly believed he was about to die. Lin Xu'ang also breathed a sigh of relief, but his vigilance remained undiminished. He first walked to the control panel and quickly familiarized himself with its functions. The shield energy was the foundation of the safe house's existence and must be monitored at all times. The material storage space had only 10 units, each capable of holding 100 identical items, which solved the problem of backpack capacity. The basic life support system could provide purified water and synthesize basic nutritional paste. Though the taste left much to be desired, at least it would prevent starvation. The most important feature was the shop terminal. He walked to the central cylinder, and with a thought the holographic interface switched to the shop interface. A dazzling array of product categories appeared before his eyes, arranged in sections, overwhelming to behold. Food: compressed biscuits, 1 survival point pack; purified water, 1 survival point; lighter high energy chocolate, 5 survival points; bar self-heating field rations, 10 survival points portion. Tools: flint, 2 survival points; multi-function survival knife, 20 survival points; basic first aid kit, 15 survival points; high power flashlight, 10 survival points. Weapons: refined machete, 50 survival points; compound bow, 80 survival points; arrows, 5 survival points each; pistol, 200 survival points; ammo, 10 survival points; box. Armor: light protective suit, 100 survival points; alloy shield, 150 survival points. Skills: basic combat proficiency, 500 survival points; basic firearms mastery, 300 survival points; basic stealth, 400 survival points. Talent enhancement grayed out unlocked. Special random supply crate, 100 survival points; safe house upgrade core, 5,000 survival points. The variety of goods was extensive, ranging from basic survival supplies to weapons and skills, but the prices were steep. Lin Xu'ang currently had only 31 survival points, a meager amount. He noticed that after occupying the safe house, he would receive a fixed daily income of 100 survival points, an undoubtedly stable source. But the safe house upgrade core cost 5,000 points, clearly not something he could consider in the short term. It seems survival points are the real currency Lin Xu'ang mused. What's it like? Any good stuff? Lei Lai approached, eyeing the shop list with gleaming eyes, but upon seeing the prices he deflated. Damn, that's expensive. Our top priority is to boost our strength and heal your injuries, Lin Xu'ang quickly planned. Let's exchange for some essentials first. He spent 15 survival points to exchange for a basic first aid kit and handed it to Lei Lai. Treat your wounds. Use the good medication. Then he spent 10 survival points to exchange for 2 self-heating field rations and 4 liters of purified water, leaving the remaining 6 survival points for later. Lei Lai didn't stand on ceremony. He took the first aid kit and began to retreat the claw wounds on his chest. The disinfectant and special hemostatic powder from the shop had an immediate effect, greatly alleviating the pain and causing the wounds to heal rapidly. The two sat on the metal bed, eating the hot field rations and drinking the sweet purified water, feeling their stamina slowly recover. Only then did they experience a genuine sense of safety. What's the plan now? Lei Lai asked while eating. Those guys outside probably haven't gone far, and the safe house coordinates are public. Troubles are bound to keep coming. Hold, Lin Xu'ang replied succinctly. This is our base. We can't lose it. Besides, we can't give up the 100 survival points per day. How do we hold it? Just the two of us. Lin Xu'ang frowned. The house has protection, but the energy will eventually run out. What if we attract a large number of monsters, or someone with heavy weapons? So we need to increase our strength and use the rules to our advantage, Lin Xu'ang said, opening the regional channel. At that moment, the regional channel exploded once again due to the news of the safe house being occupied. The safe house has been taken. It's Lin Xu'ang from the Dragon Kingdom. Of course it's him. That killer. How did he get in? What happened to the defense laser? He must have bound it. Damn, he's lucky. Is there anyone willing to team up and drive him out? The safe house should belong to everyone. Go ahead. Don't forget how he killed people. He seems to have a companion injured. The coordinates are public and monsters will keep gathering. Let's see how long he can hold out. The channel was filled with envy, jealousy, resentment, and incitement. Many coveted the safe house, but due to Lin Xu'ang's fearsome reputation and the terrifying defense laser, no one dared to act rashly for now, though undercurrents surged. After a moment of thought, Lin Xu'ang sent his first regional message since entering this world. Lin Xu'ang, Dragon Kingdom, safe house occupied. I accept limited trade and cooperation. Can exchange food, water, medicine, weapon blueprints, and special intelligence for survival points or items of equivalent value. Also recruiting temporary guards. Must meet combat standards. Daily wage 10 survival points. Spoils distributed based on contribution. Interested parties DM. As soon as this message was sent, the regional channel fell silent for a few seconds, then erupted even more. Trade. Cooperation. He's recruiting people too. Daily wage of 10 survival points. Is that real? That's a decent knife in a day. Combat standards. How do you qualify? Cooperate with him. Playing with fire. But it's at least an opportunity. Better than dying out there. Lin Xu'ang's goal was clear. Hunkering down and waiting for reinforcements was unrealistic. He had to take the initiative. Trade could yield urgently needed survival points and special items, while recruiting guards could share the burden and screen for potentially useful individuals. As for loyalty, he never counted on it. It was mutual exploitation. Soon his private chat channel began to flicker. There were those wanting to trade supplies, those inquiring about guard requirements, and those trying to cozy up or issue threats. Lin Xu'ang calmly filtered the information. He prioritized contacts with weapon blueprints, a crude arm crossbow blueprint, and those claiming knowledge of nearby resource points, exchanging small amounts of food and water for these items. For those applying to be guards, he set a threshold. They must come to the safe house in person and undergo a test demonstrating combat ability and temporarily surrender all weapons. Lin Xu'ang would handle the preliminary screening. He couldn't fully trust outsiders, but at this stage he needed people to share the burden of guarding and clearing nearby monsters. After handling these matters, Lin Xu'ang turned his attention back to himself. He looked at the skills category in the shop. Basic combat proficiency, 500 survival points, enhances close quarters combat techniques, and power generation slightly increases strength and agility. Basic firearms mastery, 300 survival points, familiarizes with common firearm structures, and usage improves shooting accuracy. Basic stealth, 400 survival points, learn more efficient movement and concealment techniques, reduce the chance of being detected. All three skills were useful to him. Combat proficiency would better leverage his 100-fold damage, firearms mastery for medium to long-range threats, and stealth for reconnaissance and ambushes. But he was far from having enough survival points. I need to find a way to earn survival points quickly. Lin Xu'ang's eyes flickered. Hunting monsters. Or dealing with some reckless fools. A cold glint passed through his eyes. In this world, mercy was a luxury. Any existence that posed a threat to him was a potential source of survival points. Just then the safe house system notification rang again, warning multiple hostile units detected approaching the safe house. Owner, prepare for defense. First defense mission after occupation triggered, repel the incoming enemies. Mission reward survival points 200, safe house, shield energy recovery rate permanently increased by 10. Lin Xu'ang and Lin Xu'ang exchanged a glance and stood up simultaneously. Trouble had arrived, and the reward seemed worthwhile. At the edge of the space pushed open by the energy barrier outside the safe house, 7 or 8 figures vaguely emerged. They were not monsters, but human contestants. These people had evidently survived the previous melee and had temporarily reached some kind of tacit agreement, banding together with an unspoken intent to seize the safe house. At the forefront was a white man in a tattered suit wearing gold-rimmed glasses who looked like a down-and-out lawyer or manager. Yet he held a blood-stained golf club in his hand, and his eyes were sinister. Beside him was a burly black man wielding a metal baseball bat, a bald middle-aged white man in a tactical vest holding an old-fashioned shotgun, and 4 other men with various crude weapons, their expressions fierce. You inside, listen up. The gold-rimmed glasses man banged a steel pipe against the energy barrier of the safe house, producing a dull thud. His voice came through the barrier somewhat distorted. We know your name is Lin Xu'ang. The safe house is a public resource, not something you can monopolize. If you know what's good for you, open the door and let us in. We might consider letting you join us and co-manage it. Lin Xu'ang peered through the observation port by the door and spat. TCH. Sounds all high and mighty, but all you want is to rob us, right? That guy with the shotgun is a bit troublesome. Lin Xu'ang remained calm. He had long anticipated that someone wouldn't be willing to give up. He just hadn't expected them to organize so quickly. They can't break the energy barrier. Lin Xu'ang walked to the operation panel and checked the defensive energy. It was still at 100. But we can't let them keep surrounding us. Besides, the mission requires us to repel them. How do we fight? I'm still not fully healed, and they have a gun. Lei Lai frowned. You guard the door, use the observation port and firing port to harass them, especially the one with the shotgun. Lin Xu'ang quickly deployed. I'll go out. You go out. That's too dangerous. Lei Lai was startled. Staying inside is safe, but it won't solve the problem or establish our authority. Lin Xu'ang's eyes turned cold. They need to know that messing with me comes at a price. Besides, my talent is suited for taking the initiative. He needed survival points needed to establish his dominance, and also needed real combat to hone his synergy with the 100-fold damage. These people outside were just the right whetstone. Lei Lai looked at Lin Xu'ang's calm, yet confident eyes, recalling his terrifying strength from before, and nodded. Be careful. I'll cover you. Lin Xu'ang took a deep breath and checked his equipment. The dagger was in hand, and the machete was strapped to his back. He walked to the door and signaled to Lei Lai. Lei Lai pressed a few buttons on the operation panel. Temporarily disable entrance barrier. Yes. The energy barrier at the entrance of the safe house silently vanished, leaving a gap just wide enough for one person to pass through. The gold-rimmed glasses man and his group, who had been shouting outside, were taken aback, then showed delight, thinking the people inside had yielded. But the next second a figure shot out of the gap, like a cheetah, not in surrender, but with a chilling, murderous intent. Open fire. The gold-rimmed glasses man reacted fastest. Though he didn't understand why the other side dared to charge out, he immediately gave the order. Boom. The bald shotgun man instinctively pulled the trigger. The buckshot sprayed out in a fan shape. But the moment Lin Xu'ang rushed out of the gap, he had already anticipated the direction of the gun barrel. His body made an evasive maneuver in advance, sidestepping like a ghost. Most of the pellets grazed past him, with only a few hitting his arm and thigh, causing a searing pain, but no serious injury. The 100-fold damage granted him immense offensive power, but his defense and speed still relied on his own attributes. He had to rely on precise prediction and movement to avoid lethal attacks. You're asking for death. The black baseball bat man roared, swinging his metal bat horizontally at Lin Xu'ang's waist with immense force. Lin Xu'ang did not dodge or evade. His forward momentum remained unchanged. Just as the bat was about to connect, he suddenly dropped low, nearly sliding along the ground, and at the same time his dagger swept upward, aiming directly for the burly man's groin. This move was incredibly cunning and vicious. The burly man clearly hadn't expected such ferocity from his opponent, and couldn't change his stance in time. Schlick. The dagger struck true. The 100-fold damage erupted. Aelzo. A scream of agony, utterly inhuman and piercing, burst from the burly man. His entire lower body seemed to be instantly destroyed by an invisible force. The crotch area was soaked through with blood, and his massive frame collapsed to the ground like a puppet with its strings cut, letting out a pig-like squeal, instantly incapacitated. This gruesome scene made the others who had been charging forward pause involuntarily, a chill of dread rising in their hearts. Meanwhile, Lin Xu'ang had used the momentum of his slide to close in on the bald shotgun man, who was just pulling the bolt to reload. Stop him. The gold-rimmed glasses man screamed in terror. Two men beside him, one wielding a machete and the other an iron pipe, steeled themselves and swung at Lin Xu'ang. Lin Xu'ang's eyes were ice cold. His body wove between them like a fish, his dagger tracing lethal arcs of cold light. Swish. Swish. Two soft sounds. Under the effect of the 100-fold damage, their weapons along with their arms were instantly severed, as if cut by a laser. The severed arms and weapons clattered to the ground. The two men let out terrified screams, blood spurting wildly. Lin Xu'ang didn't even spare them a glance. His target remained fixed on the shotgun man. The shotgun man finally finished loading, raised the barrel, and aimed at Lin Xu'ang, who was now right in front of him, his face contorted with a mix of ferocity and fear. Die. Just as he pulled the trigger, Lin Xu'ang sidestepped sharply, his left hand shooting out like lightning. Not to grab the barrel, which would have blown his hand off, but to precisely strike the side of the shotgun stock with the outer edge of his palm, channeling the power of the 100-fold damage. Crack. The hard wooden stock and some metal components under the terrifying force of the 100-fold damage instantly fractured, twisted, and deformed like fragile biscuits. The shotgun was knocked clean out of his hands, pieces scattering everywhere. The bald shotgun man stared in disbelief at his empty hands and the wrecked gun on the ground, as if he had seen a ghost. What kind of monstrous strength was this? And Lin Xu'ang's dagger was already pressed against his throat like a death warrant. Don't kill me. The shotgun man's legs gave way, and he collapsed to his knees, tears and snot streaming down his face. On the other side, the gold-rimmed glasses man and the last man holding a steel rebar had been utterly terrified by the lightning-fast, effortless slaughter they had just witnessed. They looked at their screaming companions on the ground, at the shotgun that had been instantly destroyed, and at Lin Xu'ang standing like a demon, his dagger at their comrade's throat. All their courage and greed had evaporated. "A monster!" screamed the man with the rebar, dropping his weapon and fleeing. The gold-rimmed glasses man wanted to run too, but his legs were too weak to move. At the entrance of the safe house, Lei Lai aimed a common pistol which Lin Xu'ang had exchanged with some of the survival points just traded at the gold-rimmed glasses man, and said coldly, "Try moving again." The fight had lasted less than 30 seconds from start to finish. Of the 8 attackers, 1 was crippled, the baseball bat man, 2 had their arms severed, 1 was captured, the shotgun man, 1 had fled, leaving only the gold-rimmed glasses man, and 2 others who were less injured, but had lost all will to fight, slumped on the ground. Lin Xu'ang sheathed his dagger and glanced at the ashen-faced shotgun man, but did not kill him. He needed to establish his authority, but he didn't need pointless slaughter. Leaving survivors sometimes spreads fear more effectively. He walked over to the gold-rimmed glasses man and looked down at him. "Now who owns the safe house?" Lin Xu'ang's voice was calm, yet carried a bone-chilling coldness. The gold-rimmed glasses man trembled, his teeth chattering. It's yours. It's yours. We were wrong. We won't dare again. Please spare us." Successfully repelled the invading enemies. Completed the first defense mission. Reward survival points 200, safe house energy recovery speed permanently increased by 10. The system's prompt sounded. Lin Xu'ang checked his survival points. They had become 231, original 31, mission reward 200. "Get lost." Lin Xu'ang spat out a single word. The gold-rimmed glasses man, as if granted a pardon, scrambled to his feet, and along with the 2 others who could still move, helped their screaming companions, and fled, without daring to look back. The shotgun man also scrambled to his feet, and followed. All that was left at the scene were some bloodstains and broken weapons. Lin Xu'ang stood still, feeling the slight rush of blood from the brief, intense fight, and the stinging pain from the shotgun pellets that had grazed his arm and thigh. He took a deep breath, suppressing the slight excitement brought by the killing. This battle had achieved its purpose, established authority, earned survival points, and tested his combat capabilities. He believed that for a while no one would be foolish enough to target the safe house. He turned and walked back inside. The energy barrier closed behind him. Lei Lai watched him, his expression complex, admiration mixed with a hint of awe. He considered himself bold, but he had never seen anyone fight with such decisive brutality, precision, and ruthlessness, almost like a machine. "All done," Lin Xu'ang said flatly, as if he had just taken a stroll. Lei Lai nodded and handed him a bottle of water and a piece of gauze. "Treat your wounds." Lin Xu'ang took them, simply cleaned and bandaged the scrapes. The special medicine from the shop was very effective. The wounds soon stopped bleeding. He sat down on the metal bed and opened the shop interface. With 231 survival points, he could exchange for some items. First, he spent 500 survival points to directly exchange for basic combat proficiency. Instantly, a flood of knowledge, techniques, and methods of exerting force poured into his mind and rapidly merged with his muscle memory. He felt his control over his body become more refined, and his understanding of angles, force, and timing in his attacks deepened. Although his basic attributes hadn't directly improved, his combat ability, especially in close-quarters combat, had undoubtedly risen to a new level. With the remaining points, he exchanged for some ammunition for Lei Lai's pistol, and replenished some food and water, leaving less than 100 points as a reserve. "Next, we might need to take the initiative," Lin Xu'ang said to Lei Lai. "Clear the surrounding monsters, gather resources, and look for other valuable targets. We can't just hold the safe house, we have to expand outward." Lei Lai gripped his pistol firmly and nodded heavily. The knowledge of basic combat proficiency was imprinted in Lin Xu'ang's mind like an instinct. He closed his eyes and concentrated, savoring the subtle transformation. The exertion of power no longer relied solely on brute muscle strength. It emphasized a coordinated transmission from the heel to the abdomen, then to the shoulders and arms, like a drawn bowstring releasing in an instant. His footwork became more agile, and his grasp of distance and timing elevated to a new level. Although the numerical values of strength and agility remained unchanged, his actual combat effectiveness, especially in close-quarters techniques, was now incomparable. "How do you feel?" Lei Lai asked from the side. He could sense that the aura emanating from Lin Xu'ang seemed more condensed. "Not bad." Lin Xu'ang opened his eyes, flexed his wrists, and felt the subtle adjustments in muscle memory. More suited for killing. His tone was flat, but it sent a chill through Lei Lai's heart. "How's your injury?" Lin Xu'ang looked at Lei Lai. Lei Lai patted his chest. "The medicine from the store works well. The wound is healing fast. With another half day of rest, I should be over 80% recovered. Won't affect combat." "Good." Lin Xu'ang nodded. "We'll rest and adjust until the afternoon, then start clearing the monsters around the safe house. On one hand, we earn survival points, on the other we eliminate threats. And we might find more resources." Hunkering down was a poor strategy. Taking the initiative was the way to seize control. Especially after acquiring basic combat proficiency, Lin Xu'ang urgently needed to fully digest these techniques through real combat and perfectly integrate them with his 100-fold damage talent. The two took turns resting and standing guard. During this time, several more waves of scattered monsters were attracted by the safe house's aura, but they lingered outside the energy barrier. Lin picked them off with his pistol, earning a small amount of survival points. In the regional channel, news of Lin Xu'ang instantly crushing the 8-man squad had spread, causing quite a stir. The restless thoughts of some were temporarily suppressed, and the title god of slaughter spread like wildfire. Some people began to seriously consider the trade and recruitment messages Lin Xu'ang had sent earlier, and the private chat channel became more sincere. In the afternoon, the sky remained gray. Lin Xu'ang and Lei Lai were ready. Lin Xu'ang still used the dagger as his primary weapon, with a machete as backup. Lei Lai mainly used a pistol, switching to a military knife in close quarters. Both carried ample ammunition, food, and water. Let's go. The safe house's energy barrier opened a gap, and the two slipped out quickly. The barrier closed behind them. The air outside was still foul, carrying the stench of blood and rust. Within a few hundred meters of the safe house, the area was relatively empty due to the previous battles and the repulsion of the energy barrier. But farther off in the shadows of the ruins, countless dangers still lurked. To the east, 2 boneblade monsters were wandering just now. Lin pointed. Will start with them. Lin Xu'ang's eyes were sharp as a drawn blade. Using the collapsed walls and rubble as cover, the two crept silently eastward. With basic combat proficiency, Lin Xu'ang's stealth movements were more professional. His steps light, his breathing deep, almost blending into the environment. Soon at the entrance of a collapsed residential building, they spotted the 2 bone-blade, humanoid monsters wandering aimlessly. Lin Xu'ang gestured to Lei Lai to cover him, then approached like a hunting leopard from the side and rear. His footsteps on the rubble barely made a sound. He adjusted his breathing to the lowest frequency, recalling the techniques of ambush and lethal strikes from the combat proficiency. When he was less than 5 meters from the nearest boneblade monster, Lin Xu'ang moved. His feet suddenly exploded with force, his body shooting forward like an arrow from a bowstring. No longer the crude talent-driven charge, but with a flowing rhythm. He kept his body low to reduce wind resistance and exposure, holding the dagger in a reverse grip with the blade upward. His target was the joint between the monster's neck and spine, a relative weak point for such humanoid creatures. The boneblade monster seemed to sense something and started to turn, but Lin Xu'ang had already closed in like a ghost. Thud! The dagger pierced the predetermined spot with pinpoint accuracy. 100-fold damage erupted instantly. There was no earth-shattering roar, but the monster's entire neck and part of its spine exploded as if a bomb had detonated inside. Its head flew off with a segment of vertebrae. The headless body swayed for a moment and crashed heavily to the ground. Successfully killed boneblade walker gained 5 survival points. The other boneblade monster heard the noise, let out a screech, and swung its boneblade as it turned to strike. But Lin Xu'ang didn't pause after his successful strike. He sidestepped, his body slipping like a greased eel past the descending boneblade, while his other hand formed a fist imbued with 100-fold damage and slammed into the second monster's ribs like a cannonball. Crack! Thump! The sound of shattered ribs and ruptured internal organs mingled. The boneblade monster's body caved in, as if struck from the side by a speeding truck, flying several meters sideways, crashing into a wall and sliding down limp and lifeless. Successfully killed boneblade walker gained 5 survival points. Clean and efficient. Flowing like water. The entire process took less than 3 seconds, and 2 formidable monsters were obliterated in an instant. Compared to his earlier struggle and brute force clash with the iron-jawed lizard, Lin Xu'ang now moved with ease and remarkable efficiency. Beautiful. Lei Lai couldn't help but mutter from a distance. He could see that Lin Xu'ang's movements were more concise and efficient, his timing impeccable. The effortless grace made it seem like a different person. Lin Xu'ang himself was satisfied. Basic combat proficiency was indeed worth the cost, allowing him to better unleash the terrifying effect of 100-fold damage while reducing unnecessary energy expenditure and risk. He quickly searched the 2 corpses, but unfortunately there was no loot. Continue. The 2 operated like an efficient killing machine, sweeping outward from the safe house. When they encountered a radiation scorpion cat, Lin Xu'ang could dodge its venomous tail more easily and strike its vital points with precision. When they encountered a shambler, he exploited its slow speed, circling behind to attack its relatively fragile head. Even when facing a small group of 3 iron-jawed lizards, Lin Xu'ang, with his superior footwork and combat skills, and under Lei Lai's covering fire, took them down one by one, targeting their joints and abdomen, areas with weaker defense. It took some effort, but they were defeated without a scratch. Survival points steadily increased. During the outing, they found an abandoned military supply crate in a half-buried cellar. It contained several unopened boxes of rifle ammunition. Unfortunately, they had no rifle, some bandages, and a simple trap blueprint. This is useful. Lin Xu'ang put away the blueprint. We can set them around the safe house for early warning and damage. The afternoon passed in hunting and searching. They cleared the main threats within about 500 meters to the east and north of the safe house, killing over 20 monsters of various types. Lin Xu'ang's survival points increased by over 100, reaching around 350 points after deducting the cost of ammunition and other consumables. Lei Lai's injury had nearly healed during the activities, and his combat power was fully restored. At dusk, the two returned to the safe house with their gains. The energy barrier opened, and the familiar white light and sense of security enveloped them again. How that felt great. Lei Lai placed his pistol on the table and let out a satisfied sigh. The afternoon of intense hunting, though dangerous, had also accumulated a lot of combat experience for him, helping him adapt to this world. Lin Xu'ang first checked the safe house's status. The protective energy was still at 100, meaning it hadn't been attacked in the afternoon. He walked to the central terminal and began studying the simple trap blueprint. Simple trap blueprint. Required materials: metal fragments X5, simple spring X2, or resilient beast tendon rope X1. Effect: creates a trap that can damage and immobilize small to medium monsters. Learn. The blueprint dissolved into a stream of light and merged into the terminal, adding the trap option to the crafting list. Need materials? We can collect them tomorrow. Lin Xu'ang noted the requirements. Then he opened the regional channel and private messages to handle the accumulated information from the afternoon. Several people expressed willingness to trade information or small resources for food and water. Lin Xu'ang screened them and completed a few trades, exchanging a small amount of supplies for a tip about a nearby abandoned gas station that might still have fuel, and another piece of information about a location with glowing, possibly radioactive mushrooms. The latter he set aside for now. As for the guard recruitment, a few more people had applied in the afternoon, but their abilities were mediocre. After testing by Lei Lai, they were politely declined. Only one, a Southeast Asian woman named Aya, was quite agile, skilled with a short bow, and claimed to have tracking and herbal knowledge. She seemed somewhat valuable. Lin Xu'ang had her temporarily stationed in a designated area outside the safe house, deciding to observe her for a night before making a decision. After handling these matters, Lin Xu'ang began summarizing the day's gains. His strength had improved significantly, especially after mastering basic combat proficiency. The immediate threats around the safe house had been initially cleared. He had accumulated some survival points. He had also obtained a blueprint and 2 potentially useful pieces of information. But it wasn't enough. The hell-level difficulty would not stop here. The crack in the sky always lingered like a thorn in his heart. He needed to become stronger faster. Tomorrow we'll check out that abandoned gas station, Lin Xu'ang said to Lei Lai. Fuel is a crucial strategic resource. Besides, it's not too far, and we can continue clearing monsters along the way. No problem. Lei Lai cracked his knuckles. Night fell. Outside the safe house, occasional monster roars and sporadic gunfire echoed, sounds from other survivors still struggling. Inside the safe house, it was relatively quiet. Lin Xu'ang lay on the bed, but didn't fall asleep immediately. He reviewed every battle from the day, pondering how to integrate his combat skills with 100-fold damage even more perfectly. The path to power had only just begun. Early the next morning, after a simple meal of synthetic nutrient paste, the taste was indeed unflattering, but it provided ample energy. Lin Xu'ang and Lei Lai set out again. Today's target was an abandoned gas station about 1.5 kilometers to the east. If there was any fuel, it would be immensely valuable, whether as fuel, trade goods, or potential weapons, Molotov cocktails. The two navigated with ease through the area they had cleared yesterday, entering the unknown eastern district. The buildings here were denser and more dilapidated, with streets clogged by mountains of abandoned vehicles forming natural obstacles and traps. The density of monsters seemed higher than in the west. Before they had gone far, they were ambushed by a group of 7 or 8 radiation scorpion cats. Be careful, these things are fast. Lei Lai warned, raising his gun to fire. Bang! Bang! 2 of the leading scorpion cats were hit by bullets, tumbling to the ground, but the ones behind still charged fearlessly. Lin Xu'ang's gaze turned icy. The proficiency from basic combat mastery made him more composed in facing such a swarm. His steps were agile, weaving through the gaps of the scorpion cat's lunges. The dagger danced like death's scythe, each strike precisely hitting the head or spinal joint of a scorpion cat. Under the 100-fold damage boost, a single hit to a vital point instantly killed these agile monsters. Thud, thud, thud. Like slicing through melons and vegetables, in just over 10 seconds the remaining 5 or 6 scorpion cats all lay dead. Successfully killed radiation scorpion cat, survival points 2. A series of notifications chimed. Your aim still needs work, Lin Xu'ang said, flicking the slime off his dagger, addressing Lei Lai. Lei Lai had fired 5 shots earlier, only hitting 2. His face flushed with embarrassment. Damn, this crappy pistol has too much recoil and terrible accuracy. Once I have enough survival points, I'll definitely get a decent gun. After clearing the scorpion cats, the two continued onward. Along the way they dealt with a few stray monsters and found several unopened cans of luncheon meat in an abandoned bus, an unexpected bonus. The closer they got to the gas station, the more distinct the smell of fuel became, yet it was mingled with an indescribable cloying sweetness. Something's off. Lin Xu'ang stopped and signaled Lei Lai to take cover. With his higher spiritual energy, his perception was sharper than Lei Lai's, and he faintly sensed an oppressive aura ahead. The two hid behind a low wall, cautiously peeking out. About 200 meters ahead lay the abandoned gas station. Several rusted fuel pumps lay tilted on the ground. The convenience store's windows and doors were shattered, and debris was everywhere. But what drew their gaze was a colossal creature perched on the gas station's roof. It looked like a bat magnified dozens of times, but far more hideous. Its body was covered in dark red lava-like rough skin with sharp bone spurs along the edges of its leathery wings. A tail like a scorpion's arched high, its tip gleaming with a poisonous blue light. Most terrifying was its head, eyeless with only a massive maw filled with spiral-shaped fangs currently facing the sky, emitting a low but penetrating ultrasonic wave. What the hell is that thing? Lei gasped, his scalp tingling. The aura emanating from the monster far surpassed any they had encountered before. Lin Xu'ang's pupils contracted as the system notification chimed in, warning: special elite monster detected, Sonic Bat Demon. This monster possesses powerful ultrasonic attacks and flight capabilities with high defense. Its weaknesses are located inside its mouth and at the wing membrane joints. Defeating it yields rich rewards. Special elite monster. Indeed, under hell difficulty there couldn't be only common minions. What do we do? Fall back, Lei whispered. That thing looked nasty, could fly, and held the high ground. Lin Xu'ang's eyes flickered as he analyzed quickly. The Sonic Bat Demon was dangerous, but the system had pointed out its weaknesses, and the reward for killing it would surely be substantial. He was also determined to get the fuel from the gas station. Let's try, Lin Xu'ang decided. You draw its attention, shoot at its wing membranes, or try to hit its mouth. I'll find a chance to close in and strike its weak point. Too dangerous. It can fly, Lei objected. Precisely because it can fly it might be overconfident. Besides, its ultrasonic attack needs to be aimed. If we split up we can divide its focus, Lin Xu'ang said calmly. If it's not feasible we retreat. Seeing Lin Xu'ang's resolve, Lei stopped arguing and nodded firmly. Alright, you be careful. They devised a simple plan, and Lei moved first. He crawled to another direction, found cover, then raised his pistol and aimed at the Sonic Bat Demon on the roof. Bang, bang, bang. 3 consecutive shots hit the demon's wings and body, sparking a few flares and splattering mucus. Though they seemed to cause little damage, they successfully enraged it. Screech. The Sonic Bat Demon let out a piercing shriek, whipping its head around, its eyeless maw aimed at Lei's position. An invisible air-warping ultrasonic beam instantly slammed into the cover Lei was hiding behind. Boom. The low wall exploded as if hit by a heavy cannon, sending debris flying. Though Lei had rolled away in time, he was still flung by the shockwave, crashing heavily to the ground, his ears ringing and temporarily deafened. Such terrifying ultrasonic attack. And in the moment the Sonic Bat Demon attacked Lin Xu'ang moved. He pushed his speed to the limit, like a bolt of lightning charging from his hiding spot straight toward the supporting pillar of the gas station. His goal was to quickly climb onto the roof and get close to the Bat Demon. The Sonic Bat Demon clearly sensed the new threat, but it had just finished an ultrasonic attack and seemed to have a brief moment of paralysis. It flapped its wings furiously, trying to take off, while its scorpion tail lashed like a venomous snake toward the climbing Lin Xu'ang. Lin Xu'ang felt the malicious wind behind him. Without pausing his climb, he held his dagger in reverse in his left hand and blocked backward without looking. Clang! The dagger met the scorpion tail with a metallic ring. The immense force numbed Lin Xu'ang's arm, but he used that momentum to propel himself upward even faster. The 100-fold damage boost primarily affected attacks. Blocking didn't amplify defense 100-fold, only making his dagger tougher, so it wasn't shattered by the tail. Seizing the opportunity, Lin Xu'ang reached the edge of the gas station roof. The Sonic Bat Demon was right in front of him. The stench of its foul breath assaulted his senses. It opened its massive maw filled with spiral fangs, seemingly about to unleash another ultrasonic wave, or simply swallow Lin Xu'ang whole. Now, Lin Xu'ang's eyes blazed with cold light. He kicked off the roof edge with all his might, launching himself like a cannonball toward the Sonic Bat Demon's head. He abandoned the dagger, clenched both fists, and channeled all his strength, the techniques of basic combat mastery, and the rule of 100-fold damage into his right fist, aiming straight for the open fang-filled maw, the weak point the system had indicated. The Sonic Bat Demon seemed to sense the danger and tried to close its mouth, but it was too late. Lin Xu'ang's fist, like a red-hot iron rod, drove deep into the creature's throat. Thump! A sound of extreme dullness, as if rotten flesh had been utterly pulverized. The 100-fold damage erupted at the most vulnerable spot inside the monster's body. The Sonic Bat Demon's massive frame stiffened, then convulsed violently. Its tough, bullet-resistant dark red skin began to crack from within, oozing dark red blood. The huge maw was torn apart from the inside by an indescribable force, fangs flying, flesh mangled. Screech. Ugh. It let out a final feeble cry, then plummeted from the roof, crashing heavily onto the concrete below, sending up a cloud of dust. It twitched a few times and lay still. Successfully killed special elite monster, Sonic Bat Demon. Obtained survival points, 500. Obtained special materials, Sonic Bat Demon's Venom Sac, X1, Reinforced Wing Membrane X2. Obtained blue quality weapon, High Frequency Bone Spike Dagger X1. A cascade of rich reward notifications flooded the screen. Lin Xu'ang knelt on the roof, breathing heavily. His right fist and arm were covered in sticky foul blood and shredded flesh. That strike had drained most of his physical and mental energy. The cost of attacking from outside versus inside seemed different. He looked at the massive corpse, his heart slightly shaken. This special elite monster was indeed troublesome. If he hadn't found the weak point and decisively closed in for a lethal blow, it might not have been so easy to dispose of. Lin Xu'ang, are you alright? Lei Lai's anxious voice came from below his hearing, just beginning to recover. I'm fine, Lin Xu'ang replied, jumping down from the roof. Lei Lai ran over, staring at the sonic bat demon's corpse on the ground, then at Lin Xu'ang's blood-soaked right arm, dumbfounded. Holy crap. You actually killed it. Just lucky, Lin Xu'ang said flatly, walking over to the corpse to inspect the spoils. Sonic bat demon's venom sac special material contains potent neurotoxin. Can be used for poisoning or crafting special potions. Reinforced wing membrane, high-quality material, tough and elastic. Can be used for crafting armor or special tools. High-frequency bone spike, dagger, blue quality, a dagger forged from the sonic bat demon's tail spike. Extremely sharp. Attacks have a chance to trigger high-frequency vibration, causing extra damage and briefly paralyzing the target. Lin Xu'ang picked up the bone spike dagger. It was dark blue, about 30 centimeters long, with a ferocious shape and a cold gleam on the edge. Holding it, he could feel a faint energy fluctuation. It was far superior to the ordinary dagger he was using. He promptly replaced it as his main weapon. He stored the venom sac and wing membrane, useful items for later. The fuel is over there. Lei Lai pointed to a semi-buried storage tank behind the fuel pumps. The lid is rusted shut. We'll have to figure out how to open it. Lin Xu'ang walked over, examining the thick metal lid. He tried inserting the newly acquired bone spike dagger into the gap. SSS. The dagger slid in like cutting through tofu. With a little effort, he pried it open. Accompanied by a grating sound of metal twisting, the rusted lid was forced open, revealing a gap. The sharpness of a blue-quality weapon was indeed remarkable. Working together, they fully opened the lid. Inside was pitch black, exuding a strong smell of diesel. Excellent. So much fuel, Lei Lai exclaimed excitedly. Lin Xu'ang also cracked a smile. This risk had been worth it. They used the empty oil drums they had found to fill 3 with diesel, temporarily storing them near the relatively hidden tank, planning to bring tools next time to retrieve them. With their bountiful harvest, the two began the journey back to the safe house. The news of killing a special elite monster seemed to cause no ripples in the regional channel, perhaps due to distance or other reasons. But Lin Xu'ang knew that his strength had taken another significant step forward. However, they were unaware that on the rooftop of a distant ruined building, a high-power telescope was silently watching their retreating figures. The one holding the telescope was a man dressed in a pristine white research coat, a stark contrast to the Wasteland, wearing gold-rimmed glasses. A meaningful smile curled at the corner of his lips. Interesting specimen. Formidable attack characteristics. Worth observing. On the way back to the safe house, Lin Xu'ang felt a faint sense of being watched, but when he alertly scanned his surroundings, he found nothing. His spiritual power stood at an impressive 12 points, and this intuition rarely proved baseless. What's wrong? Lei Lai noticed his unusual behavior. Nothing, perhaps I'm being overly cautious. Lin Xu'ang suppressed his suspicions, but quietly heightened his vigilance. In this wasteland world, monsters were not the only danger. The safe house's energy barrier came into view, and the feeling of being watched dissipated. Upon returning indoors, he first addressed the spoils from their expedition. 3 barrels of diesel fuel couldn't be transported all at once, but he had already noted their location. The venom sacs of the ultrasound bat demon and the reinforced wing membranes were stored in the locker. The high-frequency bone spine dagger replaced the previous ordinary one. Gripping it in his hand, he could feel a cold surge of power that subtly resonated with his own lethal intent. His survival points surged to 850 following the elimination of the ultrasound bat demon, previously 350 plus 500. Lin Xu'ang immediately spent 400 points to acquire the basic stealth skill. The knowledge infusion worked similarly. He felt his mastery over light, shadow, sound, and scent had reached a new level, moving more silently and blending seamlessly with his surroundings. This would prove invaluable for reconnaissance, surprise attacks, and evading danger. He retained the remaining 450 survival points for future exchanges of more valuable items or unexpected situations. Lei Lai used his allocated portion of the survival points, distributed by Lin Xu'ang based on contribution from daily monster hunts, to purchase a higher quality refined pistol and several magazines, which should improve his shooting accuracy. At dusk, the Southeast Asian woman named Aya appeared once more outside the safe house, requesting an audience. After a day of observation and Lei Lai's initial interactions, she had conducted herself reasonably well, without any suspicious behavior. Her demonstration of shortbow techniques and the simple early warning traps she had set up further confirmed her genuine wilderness survival capabilities. Lin Xu'ang decided to meet with her. The energy barrier opened an aperture, and he stepped inside. She appeared to be in her mid-20s with a healthy wheat-colored complexion and a lithe, capable build. Her eyes carried a mixture of alertness and resilience. A short bow was slung across her back while a quiver of arrows and a hunting knife hung at her waist. Mr. Lin, Mr. Lei, Aya bowed slightly, her demeanor neither submissive nor arrogant. Sit. Lin Xu'ang gestured toward the metal cot. Aya took a seat and stated her purpose directly. I hope to formally join your team as a guard for the safe house. I can handle perimeter patrols, reconnaissance, and trap setting, and I'm familiar with edible plants and basic herbal medicine. I'm willing to follow your commands and arrangements. Lin Xu'ang studied her in silence, his calm gaze fixed on her eyes as an invisible pressure filled the room. Aya felt the weight of it, but maintained her composure, meeting his stare with clear, unwavering eyes. After a moment, Lin Xu'ang finally spoke. Why choose us? You should understand this place isn't entirely safe, and my reputation isn't exactly favorable. Aya took a deep breath and answered honestly. Because you're strong enough, and you have principles. I've seen many teams, some too weak and quickly devoured by monsters, others torn apart from within, which is far more terrifying than any beast. Though your methods are ruthless, at least your goals are clear, and you don't prey on the weak without reason. In the Wasteland, following the strong and abiding by their rules is the only hope for survival. I have no choice but to make the right one. Her answer was grounded and sincere. In this fragile apocalypse, morality and compassion were luxuries few could afford. What ordinary people truly needed was strength and relative stability, the very foundations of survival. Lin Xu'ang nodded, satisfied with her answer. He sought useful, pragmatic individuals, not burdens or self-righteous idealists. 10 survival points daily with loot distributed according to contribution. Absolute obedience to combat commands is required, though suggestions may be offered during non-combat periods. Entry to the inner core zones of the safe house is prohibited without permission. Violations will be at your own risk. Lin Xu'ang laid out the terms. Agreed. Aya accepted without hesitation. Good. Lin Xu'ang extended his hand. Welcome to the team for now. Aya paused briefly before grasping his hand, a relieved smile crossing her face. Thank you. Lei Lai offered her a nod in acknowledgement. With that, Lin Xu'ang's makeshift team grew to 3 members. Lin Xu'ang instructed Lei Lai to show Aya the outer perimeter defenses and warning trap locations, assigning her a designated rest area within the energy barrier's protection but outside the main structure. With an additional capable member, particularly skilled in reconnaissance and trap setting, the safe house's defensive capabilities and external exploration potential both improved. That evening, as was his routine, Lin Xu'ang scrolled through the regional channel. A message marked with distinctive symbols and repeatedly caught his attention. To all survivors in Region 073 from the Scholar, I am dedicated to researching this world's ecology and monster characteristics, and I'm currently offering premium prices for various monster carcasses, especially special variants, unknown plant specimens, and mineral samples. Trades accepted in the form of survival points, intelligence, custom weapons, or medicinal supplies. Those who provide valid specimens will earn my friendship and technical support. Contact via private message. The Scholar. Lin Xu'ang raised an eyebrow. The name stirred a vague memory. From the earlier chaos in the channel, he recalled someone posting analyses of monster weaknesses, though he'd dismissed it at the time. Now it seemed this person was far from ordinary. Custom weapons and pharmaceuticals. That implied either a relevant innate ability or mastered crafting techniques. And purchasing monster remains and samples. What was his true objective? Lin Xu'ang recalled the venom sacs and reinforced wing membranes of the ultrasound bat demon stored in his locker. While he couldn't use them immediately, exchanging them for urgently needed survival points or other resources was worth considering. He opened a private chat with the Scholar. Lin Xu'ang, I possessed venom sacs and wing membranes from the special elite monster, the ultrasound bat demon. What are you offering in exchange? The reply came swiftly, suggesting the other party had been anticipating this message. Scholar, the ultrasound bat demon. It seems you truly are as formidable as they say, taking down such a troublesome elite. Both the venom sac and wing membrane are excellent specimens. I'll offer 300 survival points for the venom sac or craft a bottle of potent neurotoxin for you, applied to weapons lasting 1 hour. For the wing membrane, 200 survival points, or I can forge a lightweight chest armor piece. The terms were fair. While survival points held value, custom crafted items seemed the more worthwhile investment. Lin Xu'ang, the toxin and armor. What are their specific effects? Scholar, the potent neurotoxin causes muscle rigidity and slowed movement and struck targets. Effective against most creatures, though its impact has against elite monsters. The lightweight armor utilizes specialized craftsmanship, offering defensive capabilities comparable to heavy protection suits from the marketplace, yet significantly lighter and without restricting mobility. Shall we proceed? Lin Xu'ang felt a surge of interest. The toxin would amplify his burst damage potential, while the armor would address his defensive shortcomings. Lin Xu'ang agreed. How shall we conduct the transaction? Scholar, share your safe house's approximate location, and I'll send my assistant to facilitate the exchange. Rest assured it's completely safe and limited to transaction duties only. An assistant? Lin Xu'ang's eyes narrowed slightly. This scholar was indeed enigmatic. After weighing his options, he designated an abandoned newsstand 500 meters west of the safe house as the meeting point. Scholar, very well. See you in 1 hour. Closing the private chat, Lin Xu'ang informed Lei Lai and Aya of his plans before heading to the exchange location alone. An hour later, Lin Xu'ang lay concealed among the ruins opposite the newsstand, waiting patiently. On schedule, a figure emerged at the streets and approaching slowly. It was not human. It was a humanoid robot approximately 1.5 meters tall, constructed entirely from dark silver metal with streamlined contours. Its head housed a sensor pulsing with blue light. Moving with steady precision, it carried a silver metallic case. The robot halted before the newsstand and emitted a synthesized electronic voice. Mr. Lin Xu'ang, I come on behalf of Mr. Scholar to complete this transaction. Lin Xu'ang emerged from his hiding position, eyeing the machine with wariness. The technological sophistication suggested this scholar possessed considerable resources and influence. What exactly was his background? Here are the items. Lin Xu'ang produced the venom sac and wing membrane. The robot's sensor scanned them and confirmed authenticity. It placed the metal case on the ground and opened it. Inside rested a vial of viscous, deep purple liquid alongside a folded black vest radiating a dull metallic sheen. Potent neurotoxin and lightweight composite armor. Please inspect. Lin Xu'ang stepped forward and lifted the toxin, catching its pungent almond-like odor. He then examined the armor. It felt cool to the touch, remarkably lightweight, and when he tested its durability by pulling hard, the material proved exceptionally resilient. How do I verify their effectiveness? Apply a small amount of the toxin to your weapon and test it on smaller creatures. The armor can withstand close-range handgun fire without damage, the robot explained. Lin Xu'ang considered this, then dipped his bone-spine dagger into the toxin vial. His gaze swept toward a radiation rat scrabbling through debris nearby. With a swift motion, he hurled the blade. It struck true, pinning the radiation rat. The rat emitted a piercing shriek, convulsed briefly, then its body rigidified before his eyes' movements, slowing to a crawl until it lay completely still. Impressive results. Lin Xu'ang nodded approvingly, retrieving his dagger and armor. Transaction complete. I look forward to future cooperation with you. The robot stowed its empty case, turned, and departed with measured steps into the ruins beyond. Lin Xu'ang watched the robot vanish, his brow furrowing slightly. This scholar was becoming increasingly opaque. Possessing such advanced technology and the ability to craft custom weapons and armor suggested he was far more secure than most competitors. His systematic collection of monster specimens hinted at ulterior motives far beyond simple research. For now, the exchange proved beneficial. Whatever schemes the scholar pursued remained irrelevant as long as they didn't threaten him. Armed with the newly acquired toxin and armor, Lin Xu'ang made his way back to the safe house. Donning the lightweight composite armor and carefully stowing the toxin, Lin Xu'ang felt his survival capabilities strengthen considerably. His team was taking shape, equipment was being upgraded, but he understood this was merely the beginning. The true hellish trials had likely just begun. The night was deep and dark, and the Wasteland's night was even more perilous than the day. The monsters seemed more active, their roars rising and falling in the distance, sending chills through the heart. The safe house stood like an isolated island in the darkness, emitting a soft white glow and a steady pulse of energy, attracting moths while deterring wolves. Lin Xu'ang did not fall into deep slumber. He merely closed his eyes and rested. The keen perception granted by basic stealth allowed him to detect subtle changes in his surroundings even while at rest. Lei Lai and Aya took turns standing guard at the entrance of the safe house. During the latter half of the night, it was Aya's turn to watch. Time passed slowly, and all was silent except for the distant howls of monsters. Suddenly, Aya, who was crouched at the observation port, twitched her ears. She seemed to hear something different from the monsters' roars, extremely faint footsteps and rustling sounds approaching from the west. She instantly became alert and reported in a low voice through the internal communication, Mr. Lei, there's unusual activity on the west side. Unknown number, very quiet movements, not like ordinary monsters. Inside the safe house, Lin Xu'ang and Lei Lai snapped awake instantly. Lin Xu'ang moved silently to the observation port and peered out, concentrating. Outside, it was pitch black, with only the faint glow from the safe house outlining the silhouettes of nearby ruins. With his high mental strength and the boost from his stealth skill, he vaguely discerned several dozen meters away a few dark figures cautiously advancing toward the safe house using cover. Their movements were professional, spread out, advancing while covering each other. Clearly not a rabble. They're coming for us, Lin Xu'ang said, his eyes cold. Prepare for battle. You keep observing and report their positions. Lei Lai, take the left firing port. Understood. Lei Lai immediately grabbed his refined pistol and moved to the firing port on the left wall. Lin Xu'ang grasped his high-frequency bone dagger, crouching like a stalking leopard in the shadows behind the door. The newly equipped lightweight composite armor brought a chilling sense of security. The dark figures outside drew closer. There were about 6 or 7 of them. They stopped dozens of meters outside the energy barrier, seemingly observing and waiting. They've stopped. Looks like they're setting something up. Aya whispered. Just then a sudden change occurred. On the west side of the safe house where Aya was on watch, the energy barrier suddenly rippled abnormally, then flickered like a faulty light bulb, shrinking by a small margin. What's happening? Lei exclaimed. Lin Xu'ang immediately looked at the control panel. The protective energy reading had plummeted from 100 to 85, and it was still slowly dropping. Warning: safe house energy barrier is being interfered with by an unknown signal. Partial function failure. Please eliminate the interference source as soon as possible. Interference. Lin Xu'ang understood instantly. These people were prepared. They had equipment or abilities capable of disrupting the safe house's barrier. Find the interference source. Lin Xu'ang said coldly. Aya strained to look outside, but the darkness made it hard to distinguish. At that moment the attackers outside moved. They clearly knew the barrier was compromised. Two of them suddenly burst from cover carrying objects resembling demolition tubes, charging toward the breach in the barrier. Stop them! Lei roared, firing continuously from the firing port. Bang! Bang! The bullets struck the leading man, but were deflected. The man wore a thick, seemingly homemade steel plate armor. They have heavy armor. Lei shouted. The two men enduring the bullets reached the breach, shoved the demolition tube inside, and quickly retreated. Watch out for the explosion! Aya cried out. Lin Xu'ang's eyes sharpened. The moment the demolition tube was shoved in, he yanked open the safe house door. The breach overlapped with the door position. Instead of fleeing, he shot out like lightning, precisely grabbed the hissing tube, and with all his strength hurled it back toward the retreating attackers. His strength was only 8 points, but with the leverage of basic combat proficiency and the burst of urgency, the tube flew like a javelin dozens of meters away. The attackers had not expected such a move. Seeing the tube flying back, they were terrified and dove to the ground. Boom! A violent explosion erupted among the attackers. Flames shot into the sky, shrapnel flew everywhere. Screams of agony followed. At least 2 or 3 were wounded or killed. Nice shot! Lei cheered. However, the crisis was not over. The barrier interference persisted, and the energy continued to drop slowly. Moreover, although the attackers were stunned for a moment, the survivors did not retreat. Instead, they grew even more frantic, opening fire. Bullets struck the safe house walls and barrier with a continuous clatter. The interference source must be nearby. Aya, can you locate it? Lin Xu'ang asked while dodging stray bullets. Aya gritted her teeth and strained her senses. Suddenly, she pointed to a drainage pipe not far from the side of the safe house. Over there. There's a very faint electronic device humming. It paused during the explosion, just now. Lin Xu'ang followed her direction. The pipe opening was dark and shadowy. Indeed, a good spot for setting up an interference device. Cover me, Lin Xu'ang said to Lei and Aya. His body darted out from the door breach like a phantom, activating basic stealth at full power, merging into the night. Suppressive fire, Lei roared. Together with Aya, he fired desperately toward the attackers' hiding spots, pinning them down. Lin Xu'ang moved with incredible speed, his footsteps silent on the ground. He followed the shadows and quickly approached the drainage pipe. The attackers noticed his intent and shifted some of their fire toward him. Bullets whizzed past, hitting the walls and ground around him, kicking up gravel and dust. Lin Xu'ang remained unfazed, his body executing a series of evasive maneuvers, rolling sudden stops, pushing the techniques of basic combat proficiency to their limits. Occasionally a bullet struck his lightweight armor, producing a dull thud, but the tough material deflected it, leaving only a slight impact force. A short distance of mere dozens of meters, yet fraught with danger. Finally, he reached the drainage pipe. Inside, as expected, lay a palm-sized metal device blinking with red light. Without hesitation, he swung his dagger and sliced it in half. The red light went out, and the humming ceased. Interference source eliminated. Safe house energy barrier beginning to recover. On the control panel, the energy level stopped dropping and began to slowly rise. Meanwhile, seeing the interference device destroyed, the attackers knew their plan had failed. They let out frustrated roars, began helping the wounded retreat, and quickly vanished into the night. Lin Xu'ang did not pursue. It was too dangerous to chase a fleeing enemy outside the safe house at night. He swiftly returned to the safe house. The barrier had already recovered, sealing the breach. Are you all right? Lei and Aya gathered around. I'm fine. Lin Xu'ang shook his head, then looked at Aya. We owe you this time. Your hearing is very sharp. Aya sighed in relief and offered a faint smile. It's my duty. The three of them checked the safe house. Aside from some energy consumption now, at 87, there were no other losses. The attackers left behind several corpses and the destroyed interference device. Who are these guys? Well equipped with interference gear. Lei frowned. Lin Xu'ang walked to the corpse of one of the attackers killed in the blast and crouched down to search it. From the body, he found some standard ammunition, a fine submachine gun, and an armband embroidered with a fierce wolf's head. Wolf Head Gang. Someone had mentioned that name in the regional channel. A small group of former mercenaries and violent thugs notorious in Area 073 for preying on other contestants. Looks like we've been targeted, Lin Xu'ang said, rising to his feet, his eyes cold. Because of the safe house, or something else? He felt that this attack was not that simple. That interference device didn't seem like something an ordinary contestant could get their hands on. We'll have to be more careful from now on, Lei Lai said gravely. After all this commotion, dawn was approaching. The three of them, no longer sleepy, took turns resting while maintaining high alert. The next morning, as Lin Xu'ang was about to go out to clean up the traces of last night's attack and collect loot, a message in the regional channel caught his attention. It was from the scholar. Scholar, last night seemed quite lively. I might have some intelligence on the Wolfhead gang and that little toy, the jammer. Interested in a chat, Mr. Lin? Of course, for a small price. Lin Xu'ang narrowed his eyes. This scholar was far too well informed. He seemed to know everything about last night's events. Who was he? What did he want? Who was he? What did he want? In the safe house, the atmosphere was somewhat tense. The information from Scholar came too conveniently, so conveniently that it aroused suspicion. Having just been attacked last night, he could provide relevant intelligence the very next morning. This meant either he had been keeping a close watch on the safe house, or he was connected to the attackers. Lin Xu'ang pondered for a moment, then opened the private chat with Scholar. Lin Xu'ang, what price? The Scholar, very simple. I want half of the harvest from the next time you kill a special elite monster, excluding the items necessary for the mission. In return, I will provide you with detailed intelligence about the Wolf Head Gang, including their stronghold personnel, equipment, and the source of that jamming device. Moreover, I will offer you limited intelligence support for a period of time. Half of the harvest from the next special elite monster. This price was by no means low. Special elite monsters were rare and powerful with rich drops. But the intelligence provided by Scholar was also extremely valuable. Knowing oneself and the enemy ensures victory in 100 battles. The Wolfhead gang was like a venomous snake in the dark. If they were not eliminated, the safe house would never know peace. Moreover, the source of the jamming device was also a matter of concern. Lin Xu'ang, how can I trust that your intelligence is true? Scholar, you can choose not to believe it. But as far as I know, the Wolfhead gang is planning their next move, and the target is still your safe house. Moreover, behind them, there seems to be a certain shadow providing support. Time waits for no one, Mr. Lin. Shadow. Lin Xu'ang caught this keyword. Were there other third-party forces besides monsters and contestants? He weighed the pros and cons. Although half the harvest was painful compared to resolving the immediate crisis and gaining a potential intelligence source, it seemed acceptable. Moreover, he was confident that even after paying the price, he could still grow quickly. Lin Xu'ang agreed. But the intelligence must be given to me now, and I need to verify its authenticity. Scholar, straightforward. The intelligence is as follows: Wolfhead gang stronghold located in the abandoned underground parking lot in the southwest of Zone 073A, entrance coordinates 073, 155, 290. Currently about 15 members, leader codenamed Blood Wolf. Talent suspected to be related to Berserk or Bloodthirst strength type. 5 core members equipped with rifles, grenades, etc. Ordinary members are armed with miscellaneous weapons. Source of the jamming device not self-made by the Wolfhead gang, but from a mysterious organization calling itself the Purifiers. This organization seems to possess technology beyond the level of current players, with unclear objectives and mysterious behavior. The Wolfhead gang's relationship with them is only transactional. Shadow, tip: beware of those who dress incongruously with the Wasteland and behave strangely. They may come from the Purifiers or other, more troublesome entities. The information was very detailed, even including the coordinates of the stronghold and personnel configuration. Scholar, as for authenticity, you can send someone to scout near the coordinates, or wait for their next attack to verify. Regarding the Purifiers, I know very little, believe it or not. Lin Xu'ang looked at this information, his mind analyzing rapidly. The Scholar's intelligence didn't sound fake, at least the part about the Wolfhead gang was easy to verify. Lin Xu'ang, deal done. Scholar, pleasure doing business. Looking forward to your next harvest. Offline, closing the private chat, Lin Xu'ang shared the intelligence with Lei Lai and Aya. Abandoned underground parking lot. Bloodwolf. The Purifiers. Lei Lai rubbed his chin. Sounds troublesome. That Purifier organization technology beyond player level. What does he want? Aya was more pragmatic. If the intelligence is true, we can take the initiative and wipe out the Wolfhead gang's lair. We can't always be passive. Lin Xu'ang nodded. Aya is right. Passive defense is not the way. We need to actively eliminate the threat. He looked at Lei Lai. Are you fully recovered? Long since, fine. Lei Lai patted his chest. Good. Lin Xu'ang made a decision. Let's prepare. Early tomorrow morning we take the initiative and wipe out the Wolfhead gang. Just the 3 of us. Aya hesitated. They have 15 people plus heavy weapons. Not a frontal assault. Lin Xu'ang's eyes were cold. It's a sneak attack, assassination, dismantling. We have the map, we have intelligence. They are in the open, we are in the dark. Moreover, he weighed the high-frequency bone-spiked dagger in his hand, then touched the neurotoxin hidden at his waist. We have lethality they can't imagine. For the next half-day, the 3 began intensive preparations. Lin Xu'ang used his remaining survival points to exchange for some useful items: smoke, grenade, 50 survival points each, flashbang, 50 survival points each, and several high-efficiency healing syringes, 100 survival points each, can quickly recover non-fatal injuries. These were great for raids and self-preservation. Lei Lai and Aya inspected and maintained their weapons, preparing enough ammunition and arrows. Lin Xu'ang also studied the terrain of the abandoned underground parking lot in detail based on the map provided by Scholar, planning infiltration routes, escape routes, and possible ambush points. Our objective is decapitation. Prioritize killing the leader, Blood Wolf, and core members. Once the leader is dead, the rest will be leaderless and not to be feared. Lin Xu'ang deployed the tactics. I'm responsible for infiltration and primary kills. Lei Lai, you create chaos at the entrance to draw fire. Aya, you take the high ground, provide long-range support with your bow, and watch the perimeter to prevent anyone from escaping or external interference. Understood. The two responded in unison. Night fell again. All three rested early, conserving their energy, ready to face tomorrow's battle. However, at midnight, a very faint yet extremely sharp alarm suddenly sounded from the safe house's control panel. Warning! Warning! Detected ultra-high intensity energy reaction rapidly approaching. Source Sky. Determined as S-class threat. Please take immediate evasive measures. Repeat, S-class threat. Lin Xu'ang sprang up from his bed and rushed to the control panel. On the radar interface, a glaring red that was diving down from above the clouds at an astonishing speed, its target. Clearly pointing to Safe House 073. S-class threat. What is it? Almost at the same time, for all contestants in Zone 073, a blood-red zone-wide announcement was forcibly popped up on their system interfaces. Emergency announcement. Detected activity of ancient calamity. Codenamed the Ripper, has awakened and descended near coordinates 073, 332, 118. All contestants, please immediately leave this area. Repeat, immediately leave. Ancient calamity. The Ripper. 073, 332, 118. That was exactly the coordinates of Lin Xu'ang's safe house. Damn it. Lei Lai and Aya were also startled awake. Seeing the announcement, their faces turned pale instantly. Lin Xu'ang looked up through the observation window of the safe house at the lead gray, seemingly eternal sky. A huge meteor burning with eerie green flames was tearing through the clouds, carrying the momentum of total destruction, crashing down toward his safe house. The Scholar's intelligence, the threat of the Wolf Head Gang, all seemed insignificant at this moment. The true disaster had arrived. The burning emerald green meteor rapidly expanded in Lin Xu'ang's pupils, the shadow of death instantly saturating his entire body like icy water. S-rank threat. Ancient cataclysm. Ripper. The mere mention of these titles is enough to inspire despair. Activate maximum power protection. Lin Xu'ang roared at the operation panel, his fingers flying over the controls, instantly channeling all the energy of the safe house into the protective barrier. Buzz. The energy barrier outside the safe house erupted with unprecedented blinding light, its thickness increasing several-fold in an instant, enfolding the entire safe house like a tangible cocoon of light. But this was not enough. Lin Xu'ang could sense that the descending entity contained an energy level far beyond the defense limit of the safe house. Leave here. He made a decisive decision, shouting at Lei Lai and Aya. Go through the emergency exit. Hurry. The safe house had been designed with siege scenarios in mind, featuring a concealed emergency exit leading to the ruins behind. Let's go together. Lei Lai urged anxiously. There's no time. Its target is me or the safe house. You leave. Lin Xu'ang shoved them toward the emergency exit, his gaze resolute. That's an order. Lei Lai and Aya looked at Lin Xu'ang's unyielding gaze, then at the emerald green flames growing ever closer outside the window, seemingly about to destroy everything. With a grit of their teeth, they turned and dashed toward the emergency exit. Survive. Lei Lai shouted one last time before disappearing into the passage with Aya. Lin Xu'ang took a deep breath, turned around, and faced the impending destructive impact head-on. He tightened his grip on the high-frequency bone spike dagger, feeling the power of his 100-fold damage talent surging wildly within him, though he knew that against such a cataclysmic attack his strength might be insignificant. But he never waited for death. Come on. A fervent fighting spirit blazed in his eyes. The next second, boom, an indescribable thunderous roar shook the entire world. The emerald green flaming meteor fiercely slammed into the energy barrier of the safe house. That thick cocoon of light, like a fragile soap bubble, failed to hold for even a single second, instantly shattering and annihilating. Then came the alloy structure of the safe house itself. Under the devastating impact force and extreme heat, it began to twist, deform, and vaporize like melting butter. Lin Xu'ang felt an irresistible force sweeping over him, as if trying to crush his very soul. The light composite armor on his body instantly became scorching hot, emitting groans of overwhelming strain. He exerted all his strength, concentrating the 100-fold damage power in front of him, forming a faint distorted force field in an attempt to resist. But this was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Pooh! He spat out a mouthful of blood, feeling as if all the bones in his body were about to shatter. He was violently flung away by the raging energy shockwave, crashing into the melting wall behind him. His consciousness immediately blurred, his vision alternating between blinding emerald green light and endless darkness. In the moment before he completely lost consciousness, he seemed to see at the center of the impact the emerald green flames slowly receding, revealing a massive, twisted, incomprehensible figure of terror. Warning. Safe house has been destroyed. Owner Lin Xu'ang status dying. Detected owner suffering from erosion by the ancient cataclysm Ripper aura. Mental pollution assessment in progress. Assessment failed. Suffered severe mental trauma. Talent, 100-fold damage. Undergoing unknown mutation. Emergency repair program initiated. Consuming survival points to repair body. Insufficient survival points. Activating backup energy. Repairing. A series of urgent system prompts echoed in Lin Xu'ang's mind like distant background noise before he sank completely into endless darkness. Unknown how long had passed. Lin Xu'ang's consciousness, like drifting in a cold, deep sea, slowly and painfully coalesced. Pain. Heart-wrenching pain. As if every inch of muscle and every bone had been crushed and then barely pieced back together. His head felt like it was being pierced by countless steel needles, sending waves of tearing agony. He struggled to open his heavy eyelids. What greeted his eyes was no longer the soft white light of the safe house, but the inherent gray, desolate tones of the ruins. He was lying on a pile of scorching rubble, radiating heat and acrid fumes. He struggled to sit up, but the movement aggravated his injuries, causing him to groan involuntarily as blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. He looked down at himself. The light composite armor on his body was tattered and torn, covered in cracks and burn marks barely hanging on him. The exposed skin was also covered in blackened burns and wounds. Even the slightest movement caused excruciating pain. He immediately checked the system panel. Name Lin Xu'ang Long was status severe injury, multiple fractures, internal organ damage, severe concussion, mental pollution, mild weakness, strength 6, -2, agility 5, -4, physique 4, -3, spirit 9, -3, parentheses indicate temporary deductions, due to injuries, talent 100-fold damage, mutating. Skills, basic combat proficiency, basic stealth equipment, high-frequency bone spike dagger, slightly damaged, damaged light, composite armor, survival points 0, safe house destroyed. His condition was extremely dire. All attributes had drastically decreased, and he had an additional negative status of mental pollution. Survival points were wiped clean, and the safe house was destroyed. He looked around. Where was the safe house? Where the safe house once stood, there was now only a massive, bottomless, charred crater. The soil and rocks at the edges had been vitrified by the extreme heat, emitting wispy smoke and dense radiation energy. Within several hundred meters of the crater, all building ruins had been flattened, as if obliterated by an invisible giant hand. Devastating blow. Was this the power of the ancient cataclysm? Just a single descent, and it had caused such terrifying destruction. What about Lei Lai and Iya? Had they managed to escape? Lin Xu'ang's heart was heavy. He tried to contact them through the system, but it seemed out of range, or perhaps they. He dared not think further. The most urgent priority was to survive. In his current state, even a stray radiation scorpion cat could kill him. He suppressed the intense pain and checked his belongings. The dagger was still there, and the armor, though damaged, still offered some protection. Apart from that, he had nothing. Food, water, medicine, all vanished in the destruction of the safe house. He must immediately find a hiding place and treat his wounds. He looked around, his gaze settling on a relatively intact high-rise building ruined several hundred meters away. That might offer temporary shelter. Gritting his teeth, he used the dagger as a walking stick to support his nearly broken body, and step by painful step, he trudged towards that building. Every step aggravated his injuries, cold sweat, soaking his torn clothes, mixing with blood, sticky and cold. A mere few hundred meters felt like an insurmountable chasm. Along the way, he saw many monster corpses killed by the shockwave or scorched by the high heat, as well as sporadic human remains. Those might be contestants who had tried to approach the safe house or failed to escape in time. On the apocalyptic wasteland, life was as cheap as grass. He finally reached the base of the building, found a relatively enclosed office on the second floor, used his last strength to block the door, then collapsed to the ground, gasping heavily, his vision darkening. His injuries were too severe, and he had lost too much blood. If not treated promptly, he might not survive the day. He looked at the system shop. His survival points were 0, unable to buy anything. Was he going to die here? No, he couldn't die. A strong will to survive sustained him. He struggled to sit up and began treating his wounds with the most primitive methods, tearing relatively clean inner lining cloth to bandage the bleeding wounds and roughly resetting his dislocated bones. The excruciating pain nearly made him faint again, but he endured it with sheer willpower. After doing all this, he was almost exhausted, leaning against the wall, without even the strength to move a finger. He closed his eyes, sensing the faint yet still present power of the 100-fold damage talent within him. The system indicated the talent was mutating. What would it become? And then there was the mental pollution. He recalled the terrifying figure he saw before losing consciousness, that twisted, incomprehensible form. Just the memory sent a stabbing pain through his head, as if some maddening whispers echoed in his ears. He forced himself to calm down, eliminating distracting thoughts. It was useless to think about this now. Surviving was the top priority. He needed water, food, and medicine. He must recover a certain level of mobility as soon as possible and then leave this place. This area had just experienced the descent of the ancient cataclysm with extremely high radiation levels, and such a commotion would surely attract more monsters and ill-intentioned people. After resting for about an hour, feeling a trace of strength return, Lin Xu'ang struggled to crawl to the window, cautiously observing outside. The scene outside was still shocking. The massive crater was like a scar on the earth, telling of the horror that had occurred. In the sky, the leaden gray clouds seemed even lower, and faintly there seemed to be a trace of barely visible emerald green residue. Suddenly his gaze sharpened. On a distant patch of ruins, he saw several moving figures. They were human. They were wearing uniform, rather sophisticated black combat suits with full cover helmets, and holding oddly shaped rifles that glimmered with energy light. They moved swiftly with seamless coordination, carefully searching the area as if looking for something. Their equipment style matched exactly the purifiers described by the scholars. What were these guys doing here? Lin Xu'ang held his breath, hiding his body in the shadow of the window. The basic stealth skill instinctively came into play even in his severely injured state. Those purifier members searched around, apparently finding no target. One of them spoke into a communicator, and then they quickly withdrew, disappearing into the ruins. Suspicion grew in Lin Xu'ang's mind. The purifiers. The shadow behind the wolf head gang. They appeared immediately after the safe house was destroyed. What were they looking for? Looking for me? Or for something left by the Ripper? He felt he had been drawn into a deeper vortex. Regardless, he couldn't stay here. He must leave quickly, find Lei Lai and Aya if they were still alive, and then find a way to reclaim everything that belonged to him and make the so-called ancient cataclysm pay this debt. In Lin Xu'ang's eyes, a cold and resolute flame ignited. The searing pain and overwhelming weakness from his injuries crashed against Lin Xu'ang's nerves like relentless waves, yet he forced himself to remain conscious. He knew that once he fell into a coma in this perilous ruin strewn with dangers, he might never awaken again. Leaning against the cold wall, he attempted to activate the talent that had undergone a mutation. Concentrating his mind, he sensed the power within him, both familiar and alien. The core rule of hundredfold damage seemed unchanged, but deep within it a trace of brutality and chaos had emerged, as if infused with some frenzied catalyst. At the same time, he felt that his spiritual energy was more tightly connected to this talent, even allowing him to subtly guide it, or suppress that ferocity. Is it because of the spiritual contamination? Lin Xu'ang pondered. The contamination had brought negative effects, but it also seemed to have unexpectedly deepened the interaction between his spirit and the talent. He attempted to infuse a thread of his spiritual energy into the talent. He felt an extremely faint, almost imperceptible ripple of distortion dancing at his fingertips. Simultaneously, a sharp pain akin to a needle prick assailed his head, and the state of spiritual contamination seemed to worsen slightly. Can I actively guide it, even project it outward? But it intensifies the mental burden. Lin Xu'ang's heart trembled. This mutation seemed to imply that the hundredfold damage was no longer limited to contact-based attacks. Though the effect was negligible and the cost immense, this undoubtedly opened a new direction. He ceased his attempt, realizing that now was not the time for deep exploration. The priority was to restore mobility. He checked his status again. The severe injury icon remained glaring. Without medicine, depending solely on rudimentary bandaging and willpower, his recovery was excruciatingly slow. He had to risk venturing out to find resources. After resting long enough, he felt some strength return, at least enough to walk with difficulty. Leaning on his dagger, he struggled to stand, moved to the door, and listened carefully to the sounds outside. Confirming there was no anomaly nearby, he slowly shifted the debris blocking the entrance, slipped out like a ghost, and swiftly restored the door to its original state. The corridor was deathly silent, covered in dust and fallen plaster. He chose to go downward. The first floor might offer easier access to useful items, as well as a quicker escape route in case of danger. His steps were unsteady, each one cautious. The basic stealth skill maximally masked his footsteps and aura. Arriving on the first floor, he saw what had once been a hall, now reduced to a shattered reception desk and collapsed decorations. He searched meticulously, leaving no corner unchecked. Behind a fallen filing cabinet, he found a half-crushed metal pen, useless. Beside a water dispenser in the corner, he discovered a half-full unopened jug of bottled water. This was a lifeline. He carefully picked up the bottle, unscrewed the cap, and took small sips of the sweet water, finally soothing the parched, burning throat. He stored the remaining water preciously. Continued searching. In what appeared to be a security room, he found a heavy baton usable as an improvised weapon, as well as half a box of damp matches and an empty first aid kit shell. No food, no medicine. Hunger began to gnaw at him, a burning pain in his stomach. With severe injuries, his energy consumption was immense. He had to find food. He decided to risk leaving the building and try his luck in the nearby ruins. Staying inside, the chance of finding food was too low. He chose to exit through the back door of the building, which was relatively concealed. The back door led to a narrow alley piled with garbage and debris. The air in the alley was even more fetid thick with a stench of decay. He fought back the nausea, moving slowly along the wall, his sharp eyes scanning every corner that might hide supplies. Suddenly, a faint rustling sound came from a nearby pile of trash. Lin Xu'ang immediately stopped, held his breath, and tightened his grip on the baton and dagger, watching alertly. A radiation rat larger than an ordinary rat, with fur falling off to reveal pink muscle, emerged from the garbage heap, carrying a piece of rotten flesh of unknown origin in its mouth. The radiation rat spotted him, dropped the meat, bared its yellowed sharp teeth, and emitted a threatening squeak, its crimson eyes filled with aggression. Under normal circumstances, Lin Xu'ang could have dispatched such a low-level radiated creature effortlessly. But now, weakened by his injuries, this rat posed a considerable threat. The radiation rat lunged, launching itself at Lin Xu'ang's calf. Lin Xu'ang's eyes turned cold, though weakened, his basic combat proficiency foundation remained. He sidestepped to barely evade the attack, simultaneously swinging the baton downward. Crack! The baton struck the rat's spine with a dull thud. In normal condition, that blow would have shattered its bones. But now, with drastically reduced strength, Lin Xu'ang only managed to knock the rat off balance. Enraged by the pain, the rat turned and lunged again. Lin Xu'ang knew he couldn't prolong the fight. The noise might attract something more troublesome. Steeling himself, he ceased dodging. As the rat leaped close, his left hand shot out like lightning, grabbing its neck precisely. Simultaneously, the dagger in his right hand plunged into its eye, straight through to the brain. 100-fold damage. Even with his current strength of only 6 points, even if the dagger only inflicted a tiny wound amplified by the 100-fold coefficient, it was more than a radiation rat could withstand. With a soft sound, the rat's brain was destroyed, and it died instantly. Successfully killed a radiation rat. Survival points 1. Lin Xu'ang released his grip, and the rat's corpse slumped to the ground. He panted slightly. The brief exchange had aggravated his injuries. He looked at the rat's corpse, hesitating. Eating such a thing carried the risk of radiation sickness, but now he had no choice. Using his dagger, he skinned the rat, cut away the relatively intact muscle, suppressed his revulsion, and put the bloody meat into his mouth. He chewed a few times and forced it down. A strong stench of fishiness and an indescribable texture filled his mouth, and his stomach churned violently. But he forced himself not to think about it, only focusing on replenishing energy. After eating the rat meat and drinking some water, he felt a slight recovery of strength. The survival point had become 1, a drop in the bucket. He had to find more valuable items or hunt more valuable monsters. He continued searching the alley. Fortunately, in an abandoned mailbox, he found several chocolate bars with damaged wrappers, but seemingly intact contents. This was a godsend. He immediately unwrapped one and ate it. The high sugar content boosted his energy. He carefully stored the remaining chocolate and decided to return to his previous hiding spot. The risks outside were still too great. Just as he prepared to retrace his steps, he heard suppressed sobbing and arguing from around the corner ahead. Damn it! Stop crying. Annoying. Brother. Are we going to die here? Shut up. Give me that last piece of biscuit. No, that's our last food. Give it. Then came the sounds of shoving and snatching. Lin Xu'ang's eyes flickered. He silently approached the corner and cautiously peered around. He saw a young man and woman who appeared to be siblings huddled beside a dilapidated tent remnant. The brother, about 18 or 19, had a sallow face and a fierce yet panicked look, forcefully snatching the half-compressed biscuit that his sister was clutching tightly. The sister was even younger, around 15 or 16, her face dirty, crying profusely, desperately protecting the biscuit and refusing to let go. Both were in tattered clothes, their condition little better than Lin Xu'ang's, clearly ordinary contestants struggling to survive. Lin Xu'ang's gaze swept over them, without sympathy or disgust, only calm assessment. 2 weak, non-threatening individuals, seemingly with little to offer. He was about to leave quietly to avoid unnecessary trouble. However, the brother, during the struggle, inadvertently caught a glimpse of Lin Xu'ang's fleeting figure at the corner. Who's there? Startled, he jumped up, grabbed an iron rod from the ground, and pointed it nervously toward Lin Xu'ang's direction, while shielding his sister behind him, perhaps his last shred of conscience. The sister also stopped crying, terrified, staring over. Seeing that he was discovered, Lin Xu'ang no longer hid, and slowly emerged from the corner. His tattered armor, bloodstained body, icy gaze, and the dripping dagger made him appear more terrifying than any monster. The siblings, upon seeing his appearance, especially feeling the palpable killing intent, turned pale with fear and retreated repeatedly. Don't come closer, the brother stammered, brandishing the iron rod, his bravado fading. Lin Xu'ang stopped, his gaze calm, saying nothing. His silence and cold stare exerted immense pressure on the siblings. Suddenly, the sister seemed to recall something and asked, trembling, Are you the Lin Xu'ang who took over the safe house? Lin Xu'ang's eyes flickered. He hadn't expected to be recognized. It seemed his reputation was indeed considerable. He neither confirmed nor denied, but merely asked calmly, Have you seen a tall man in camouflage or a Southeast Asian woman using a short bow? He held on to a faint hope of getting news of Lei Lai and a ya. The siblings exchanged a glance and shook their heads. The brothers seemed to gather courage and said, No, we haven't seen them. Mr. Lin. Big shot, we don't have anything, just this little food. Please spare us. He assumed Lin Xu'ang had come to plunder their resources. Lin Xu'ang looked at them, then at the flimsy tent behind them, barely a camp, and the half-compressed biscuit in the sister's hand stained with tears. He was silent for a moment, then unexpectedly took out the remaining few chocolate bars he had found earlier and tossed them over. The chocolate bar landed at the sister's feet. Both siblings froze, staring at the chocolate on the ground in disbelief, then back at Lin Xu'ang. Leave this area. The radiation here is high and it's unsafe. After saying this, Lin Xu'ang turned, leaning on his dagger, and limped back toward the building where he had hidden, leaving the siblings staring at his retreating back, then at the chocolate, as if in a dream. The infamous killing god they had heard of had just given them food. Lin Xu'ang offered no explanation, nor did he need one. He was no saint. That chocolate meant little to him, and giving it away was insignificant. Perhaps on that girl he had glimpsed a faint spark of someone trying to protect something, even in utter despair, stirring a sliver of compassion within him. That was all. Returning to his hiding spot on the second floor, he reblocked the door, leaned against the wall, and felt the fatigue and pain in his body. He had to formulate a plan, quickly recover from injuries, find his teammates, acquire resources, improve his strength, and uncover the truth behind the judgment and the ancient cataclysm. The road ahead was still long, but regardless, he had survived. As long as he was alive, infinite possibilities awaited.